Summary. Through the sealing of the QB, Naruto gets a much better deal from the demon. The Uzumaki bloodline gets awakened, and some upgrades to his body are made. Is it a friendship between boy and demon, or is it just the demon wanting to live longer? Awakening. 6 months have passed since the near destruction of the village Konohagakure. Their two saviors cast in opposite directions. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, sacrificed his life to end the threat of the QB no Kitsune. He was given the honor of being the greatest hero of the village. On the other side of this coin, we have the 6-month-old infant Naruto Uzumaki, the chosen vessel and prison of the demon. Already the blonde child is feared, hated, despised, and tortured and nearly killed on a regular basis. Why, pray tell, am I telling you this? And who am I to know such things as the third Hokage, back from his retirement, had made the heritage of the boy a secret, and to speak of what is held within him punishable by immediate death? Well, I am the great QB no Kitsune, the most powerful of all the demons and bija of this world. But I am practically as powerless as the infant who holds me prisoner. For now, this is my story to tell you. Now be a humble mortal and listen to what I have started doing to ensure my survival from within this damnable seal. Unlike most demons that have the unfortunate mishap of becoming sealed, I stayed awake and lucid during the transference. I who have no fear will admit to quaking before the presence of the Shinigami and the man who summoned him. He, unlike all of you, have earned my respect. Though he has passed on, I have passed that respect on to his only son and my jailer. Like I have said, it has been only 6 months since that day, and already I have had to heal wounds no child should have to endure. Burns, cuts, broken bones, brain damage, seals upon his chakra paths, ruptured spleens, kidneys, bladders, stab wounds through his heart, and so much more. But today is special for my unknowing host, as today I will start to correct the damage and make him better for it. After all, the longer he lives, the longer I too shall live. Damn this seal. From this point forward, I will continue to heal him from their attacks and attempts on both our lives. Yet, I will change him to make him stronger. They break his bones, I will repair them and make them stronger. They destroy his eyes, I will make them better. I am sure you get the picture, but today I have my work cut out for me. Yes, even as a demon, I will have to toil harder than should be needed, as they have taken him to be an effigy of my defeat and once more trying to kill him and myself. Now leave me, as I have much to do if I intend for us both to survive. 3 years later. Once more I am forced to upgrade my prison. This simple mortals could not distinguish between a demon sealed and a boy, nor could it seem if they could tell the difference between a kunai and the scroll they have sealed it within. I have made his bones unbreakable to those who cannot use chakra, his skin much the same. My true pride in my jail comes from the repeated attacks from the Uchiha. I have studied their eyes and given him just their one trait. Yes, he can copy any jutsu, and with the sacrifice of all others, even raw manipulation of that energy. But he will still have to work for those skills even with the knowledge of how to do them. I may be a demon, but I will not cheat. Just as I have worked for my power, so must this boy. They destroyed his hearing, so I made it better. They gave him so much brain damage that I altered it to be near genius levels. If they knew what I was doing, none gave any inclination, and that was fine with me, for they will truly reap what they have sown from these attacks one day, that I swear. The most amusing, however, is the dormant bloodline I am toying with now. This was from his mother. How do I know this? I was once within her, though under a much different seal. Now I will work on bringing this to the front, the Kochiko bloodline, dense or heavy chakra. Such a fun little toy, and I will enjoy watching him master it. After all, it will be the means for my resurrection and release from this seal. Think of it as his payment for my renovations. Just a few more years of dealing with this, and I will meet with the boy. Set him on the path of being a chakra wielder, one of these shinobi. That will be all I need to do. After that, I will leave it to him to honor my deal. 3 years later, Naruto. It was during the festival, and as always, he was told to stay inside. He just didn't find it fair that he couldn't go on his birthday. Sure, the villagers tried to hurt him, but they couldn't do much to him anymore. He didn't know why, but he was happy about that. It wasn't hard for him to figure out what they were calling him and wonder about it, but being only 6 had a detriment on his knowledge. He had taught himself to read and write and understand several things like money, since he was now living in an apartment that the old man had given him. Screw it. I am going, he said to no one as he walked out of his new apartment, locking the door, and took it through the village. He wandered the stalls and watched the giant plushy dolls of the yondaime hanging from the game booths. It was all fine until he was truly spotted by a group of drunken villagers, though this night would be different somehow. Shouting started, "Kill the demon, finish what the yondaime started, or get away from me," repeated by different voices and genders. He did what he had to do, and that was run. The mob formed and chased him through the streets. Objects and weapons were flung at him, some cutting into him, other just bashing into his back or his head. He was getting away from them as he could move through the crowd much easier due to his smaller size and the few modifications to him over time. Until he ran into a person who just looked down at him. "How dare such a disgusting creature touch me?" the man said, as Naruto looked up to see the black hair and the funny red eyes that he somehow knew to be the full Sharingan. The gestures of the man's hands and fingers caused his eyes to tingle before he watched a fireball collide against him. The pain of the fire was enough to cause him to shriek out in pain. Before he felt the cold sensation of water covering him and the screams of other people dying around him. The gentle arms picking him up and the motions of moving very fast were the last things to pass through the boy's mind before he faded to nothingness. Mindscape / boy, come before me. A voice echoed around him as he woke up in a strange tunnel. Funny, he thought, as he felt no pain but could now see a light glowing and flickering towards one end of the tunnel. "Come to me, and I will help you." The voice called again. The low rumble and strongly comforting tone lulled at him as his feet carried him towards the glow and the presence of the voice. Soon he entered a room with row of bars on one end. Behind the bars sat a large glowing being that his mind quickly came up with a name. QB. The boy said out loud as he studied the demon that sat on the other side of the cell. Obviously very much alive considering he was told the demon died. Demon, filth, disgusting, hellspawn. All the names he had ever been called rattled through his thoughts. "You're dead." The demon laughed. Yes and no. The kitsune spoke as it lowered its massive head to eye level of the boy. "I have lived, been trapped, here for 6 years. Thanks to your 4th Hokage. He sealed me inside of you. It was the only way to defeat me." The fox spoke matter-of-factly, which caused Naruto to ponder this as the demon continued. "In that time, I have kept you alive, healed you every time they tried to hurt you. Then I decided to try and prevent that. I made you stronger, faster, smarter. For every injury, I made you whole and improved you when I did so." Naruto seemed to falter as he stood there listening to the demon, as he fell on his ass, telling him that he has been helping him. Leave it to him to be the only good guy out of this, Naruto thought. To which the QB started to chuckle. "You have not figured it out, but we are within the seal and your mind. I can hear your thoughts." He laughed again, this time slightly more evil. "But we don't have much time, so I will make this short. You are going to start learning how to be one of those ninja. I don't care how you do it, but you will. But first you need to learn to control your chakra, as you have much more than nearly everyone in this pathetic village. Because of this seal, you are absorbing mine into your own." The fox paused, as one of his tails dimmed considerably. "I have used too much power to keep us alive. Now it is your turn to work on that. I will need to rest to deal with the drain of the seal, so that I can recover most of my power." The fox sighed. "My chakra will still heal you, but that is it. I have done all I can for now, and in time you will find a way to repay my kindness. Now do not mention me to anyone until I awaken again, and do your best to become a true shinobi. None of that flashy crap. Use my gifts wisely. Now you must return to them." I sense the 2 old ones are starting to worry. With that, he flung a tail past the bars and pushed Naruto down the tunnel. With a yawn, he curled up into himself and started to sleep. Real world. Hokage's office / 2 older men were sitting in the room discussing many things, all of which seemed to revolve around the healing yet still unconscious blonde. "He's 6 now, sensei. If we start now, he will be ready for the academy in a few years. Even if we can't use his father, his mother still had a clan and many things of her own to pass on to him." The heavy-looking man, which was none other than Jiraiya of the Sannin, the oldest of the 2, the 3rd Hokage, sighed. "Jiraiya, I know, but I will not let him learn those skills until he is a genin. There is no changing my mind." Sarutobi held up his hand to forestall his one student from talking. "However, we can start him to train on his own in a few areas if he wants to." The old man sighed, the weight of his job and burden of his age slowly creeping up on him. "That's all well and fine, but what are the basics going to do the next time he's attacked like this?" Jiraiya spat out. He wished he could have taken the boy with him, but his duties and the damned council kept him from doing so. "At least let him study the basics for her taijutsu and sealing," he practically begged. "It will work on his focus, speed, and concentration. As well give him a way to defend himself." Sarutobi sagged in his seat. With a sigh, he realized he was still trying so hard to give the boy a normal life and failing. When he waked up, we can ask him if he wants to start learning. If he says no, we will drop this matter. If he decides that he wants to do this, then I will allow him to study only the taijutsu and sealing along with the basics. Now, let's get him a change of clothes and some food." With that said, the two men walked from the office to do just that, leaving what they assumed to be a sleeping child on the couch. Naruto was stunned with dealing with the realization that the demon was sealed inside him to comment on what they were saying. Like hell, I won't be a ninja. Even he wants me to be one. He opened his eyes, blinking a few times as he sat up stiffly to look around the room. The blonde had spent many days in here either recovering or just talking with the old man. But today he noticed something different. That shelf was never there before. He said out loud as he got up and walked over to the shelf that revealed to be holding a rather large scroll. Looking around, he picked it up and opened it. The forbidden scroll of Konohagakure, with enerjutsu deemed dangerous for your average shinobi. He paused reading that line and smiled. I won't be average. I will be the best, with or without their help, he thought, knowing that only the fox had truly helped him, even if it seemed just for his own plans. He looked back to the scroll and kept reading. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, a ranked jutsu, created a corporeal clone that can interact with the physical environment as well as use the limited chakra supplied to it. Can be used for trianing techniques of a chakra-based nature. Also for observation/spying and studying. As any knowledge, the clone gains will be returned to the user once the clone is dispelled. Asterisk warning, the clone splits the chakra between user and clone, and the return of knowledge may cause severe damage to the user if not regulated carefully. Naruto thought this would be a good thing, seeing as what the QB had told him. So he looked over the seals to create the clone and memorized them. Before he started to return the scroll to its place, the next one caught his attention. Chakra control threads, commonly referred to as chakra strings. Most shinobi use these to guide weapons or collect falling items. That is the lesser focus of this skill. Control threads, when used at their true strength, are capable of taking over another being or person's body. This is through pushing the chakra into the target. Also, with enough focus, these threads may also be used as a ninja wire or such. The options are limited to the imagination of the user. Asterisk warning, using such a technique on a living being could result in chakra depletion or overflow, as the combating energies will duel until one is left or the one with better control stabilizes the connection or cuts it off. This would definitely be something he could use, and he read further on it, not seeing hand signs, but a complex description on how to create them. He noted that it was one of those raw skills, which would be why it needs so much control. But he shrugged and committed it to memory, this time rolling it up and placing it back. He scurried off to the couch just as the doors opened. The Hokage and Jiraiya returned with a change of clothes, both in color and compost ion, as well as food. Naruto, you're awake, Sarutobi said as he settled the tray with food on the couch. Now I am very upset with you because you went out after I told you to stay inside tonight. Yeah, but Aji-chan, it's my birthday. I don't see why I have to stay inside, even if I know why now, Naruto said as he started eating the food. Ramen had nothing on real food, but that's all he could afford. I can understand that you want to enjoy your birthday, my boy. But now I have to ask you something, the Hokage said, eyeing Jiraiya carefully. You don't have to do this, but would you like to become a ninja one day? Naruto slurped down his food quickly. Hell yeah, old man. Jiraiya started to laugh as he looked at the expression on Naruto and his sensei's face. It was almost poetic. Since this was after all his and her son, there was no way he wouldn't want to be a ninja, and he would be a damn fine one on his own. But with a little push and nudge from the Sannin himself, he could be great. Are you sure? Sarutobi asked as he watched the boy nod. Then you will have to work hard and study what Jiraiya and I give you. Since you will have 3 years before you can start at the academy, you will have to learn this on your own, he said as he pulled out several scrolls from his desk. These will be what I will give you to study. Nothing special, but what is expected of any shinobi to know. Chakra control exercises, shinobi codes and conduct, and physical and some weapons training. He laid those down next to the now empty tray of food. The last one I will give you is a taijutsu, or an unarmed fighting style. This belonged to your mother. I don't know what it is, but if you put some of your blood on this seal, it will open up for you. He sighed, pointing to the seal on it, and placed it next to the others. Naruto nodded and waited since he knew he would be getting something on seals. He smiled like a happy little fox though throughout all of this, just acting amazed. This is awesome. I am going to be the best ninja out there. Even better than you, Gigi. The two older men looked at each other and shared a small smile as they both remembered another blonde not much older than Naruto saying the exact same thing to them many years ago. The last thing that you will learn is something Jiraiya-kun here wants you to learn, so he can take you to your place and explain it along with any other questions you have. Naruto's apartment. The two people sitting there had been there for several hours since they left the Hokage's office, Jiraiya had been explaining the physical exercises that the boy needed to do along with how the chakra weights worked. Then he gave him a rather large scroll, with Fuinjutsu on it. This is pretty much everything I know about seals and sealing. Just go through each level of the scrolls and take you time learning it. Nothing is worse than a seal gone bad, trust me. He said, alright. Yawn. I'll start tomorrow. I'm too tired now. And thanks for the new clothes. Just wish they were orange. Not really, but he doesn't need to know that. He thought. Sure, after looking over everything they had given him, except the Taijutsu scroll, it would take him 3 years probably just to get everything started. Well, until I can start using that Kage Bunshin. That he knew would be probably one of his most guarded secrets for now. Since having figured that if it was in that scroll no one but the Hokage, and whoever he said could learn it should. Kagaki, I'll be back in 3 years to check up on what you learned. Maybe I'll teach you a few things special when I get back if you impress me enough. He stood up stretching before he left. Remember, always keep those weights on unless you are complete outclassed or are going to really loose. He pulled up the sleeve on his coat, revealing his own set. Haven't had to take mine off in years. Before he jumped out the window, leaving Naruto alone in his apartment. Next day, the blonde boy was found looking over the Taijutsu scroll and had a grin that would put a fox to shame. This style will be awesome, but I have to change my exercises to what the scroll says. He thought as he noted the major difference between what Jiraiya had set up for him and what the scroll wanted. The major difference was Jiraiya's was to build a lot of muscle, whereas the scroll wanted muscle, speed, and flexibility to be evenly matched. Which too much muscle and you lose out on the other two. So he would work hard on what was in this scroll. Setting that aside, he read through the Shiobi codes and conduct scroll, several hours in fact, but he committed it to memory. This was of course after taking out much that seemed to contradict itself, but still he retained that knowledge. It was when he did this he knew one of the changes the fox had done, and didn't mind that a bit. He could remember anything he studied like he was looking at it. He would set that aside and reread it a few times afterwards just to make sure. But his two biggest obstacles now would be the exercise and the chakra control. Sealing could wait now that he knew it would be easy to learn. Well for him, since he could just memorize it. So he unrolled the scroll on chakra control and read the rather dry material about what chakra is, why we use it, what could go wrong. All of which seemed to be interesting, but so poorly written that it would make most kids fall asleep. Tier 1. Academy/Slow Genin. Leaf balance, Kanai balance, Samban balance. Tier 2. Chunin/Jounin. Tree walking, water walking, air pads. Tier 3. Medic level, pooling, shaping, converting, leaf. Asterisk see specific element for further focus. He read the list and noticed seal under each one. So he touched the first one and felt a tug at his chakra that seemed to cause the seal to release the notes on the exercise. Seems I have to have the control level to unlock the next one. He laughed. The old man was smart since he would have probably tried the hardest one first. He set himself to working on these, making a note that once he got to the water walking, he would use the Kage Bunshin. 1 year later, sitting in the middle of the floor, our blonde shinobi in pre-training was focusing his chakra. If you looked closer, you could see several needles were standing straight up on his skin in places. More slowly rose to stick straight out as well. He was starting to look like a shiny porcupine. The slight shimmer of blue coating all the needles the only sign that they weren't actually stuck into his flesh. Before he floated one off at a time, a nearly invisible thread of chakra connected to each one. He had started using the chakra threads once he finished the first level of the exercises. He wanted to master it and would only get better control of his chakra in this jutsu the more he used it. It also seemed to help to have more than one thing to focus his chakra on, especially after he found out roughly how much he had, though there was more each day. With the study of Fuinjutsu, he had learned quite a few seals and methods along with it, the fact that he just read the scroll a day from it. With spending an hour after reviewing everything he had read to that point, he was progressing quite a lot faster than anyone would ever know. That was 3 hours of his day. Another 2 were spent on writing and drawing to perfect the needed penmanship for sealing. 3 hours on physical training and another 3 on chakra control. Mix in eating and a little recreational time, and that had been Naruto's day since he started down this path. Eventually, he removed the last of the needles with a smile. Yes. Tier 1 complete. He gave a smile for himself, hoping that when the fox wakes up he would be impressed. It was rather sad that his only friend seemed to be the demon, but for now he was too focused on training and studying to be bothered by the lack of people. He was sure when he started the academy in 2 years that he would change that. Opening the next level on the scroll, he firmly decided that he would stay training inside for now. He could do this on the walls and ceiling. He looked at the scroll and got an idea, which he spoke out loud to no one, Maybe if I master the tree walking, and then have to do that while I redo tier 1, that would speed up things since I would have to split my control between more things. He smiled. This was so going to be worth it. Another year gone by. Now at 8 years old, Naruto was starting to show the fruits of all of his physical training as he stood shirtless in a rundown training field long forgotten on the outskirts of the village. The toned muscle rippled with pure sinew. Unlike what Jiraiya had planned for him, he was the opposite, sleek and slender with a slight curvature that could be associated with a female. He stood almost 5 feet tall now, his blonde hair grown longer and held back in a single band, his bangs falling to frame his face. The last vestiges of baby fat still clung to his cheeks. He lowered his body into the now familiar stance and flowed through the katas. Following the forms of the Uzukan style, his sinewed body, rippling like a predatory feline, each move no energy wasted. Naruto had taken to doubling his training 6 months ago when the Uchiha clan had been slaughtered, or in his opinion, put down like the rabid animals they were. True, he didn't know the full details, nor did anyone. But after all of his experiences, there was only one that he had even liked. That just happened to be the one who killed nearly all of them, Itachi. He had been his rescuer many times from his own clan. That was a driving reason to get better. But all of this was under the radar of the village and anyone that knew him. Otherwise, he was still the loud, brash, and clueless blonde. It worked well for him, that mask, as it let him listen in or sit and watch others train. He had learned not too long ago that he could copy any jutsu he saw, though not like the Uchiha that would instantly use it. Rather, he would take his time to study the techniques, learn them. Just like anything he didn't take it for granted. Every bonus to being a shinobi, he would only work harder because of it. His thoughts followed this pattern as his body followed the fluid motions of the style, while the set of clones he created were working on the air pads technique. That one allowed a shinobi to jump on air, or shift himself across spaces. From what he had learned, not many even bothered with it. Instead, they would just push chakra into their bodies to move them. Even most medics skipped that step and went on to higher levels. But if one thing Naruto was, it was a perfectionist. The blonde prodigy looked over to another set of clones that were working on a few inventive seals. Something he had noticed in a few places, and even took from the design of his own seal. He was going to test the full set on himself, though if it worked he would offer the base seal to a clan, maybe for a favor or some money. The full array would split his reserves in half, allowing for the creation of 2 sets of reserves that would be the same size as his would be now. With the addition of the second seal to the array, it would create a duplicate of his pathways for the other store of chakra to flow. He hoped to have the kinks worked out before he started the academy. The added bonus of the array, however, was that only his primary reserves would receive the Kyuubi's chakra while the other would be his purely. It would slow down the rate of conversion. A small gift for his savior. Finishing his physical training, sweat coursing over his skin, he sat down to rest, pulling out the last of the scrolls he had for sealing, and decided to memorize that one, which according to the Sannin would put the boy on his level of knowledge if not practice. That was what Naruto was planning on next, crafting seals constantly, expounding upon them, altering them, making new ones, as that was the only way to get better from this point on. The sun was lowering on the horizon. As he finished with the scroll, this would leave him with too much time on his hands. But what else could he study without being noticed? Between just control exercises and taijutsu, he would have plenty of time. Now, thanks to his clones, he had even more time. But what to study? Meditating, he thought over the primary skills of shinobi. Ninjutsu, Jinjutsu, Taijutsu, Kenjutsu, these were the 4 main areas of study. Yet, there was few in jutsu, something called puppetry, medic jutsu, and other clan-specific styles. His train of thought was broken when he heard a keening noise. Opening his eyes, he found a silver ball of fluff stumbling towards him. The distinct color of blood dripping from and clinging to its fur. He got up slowly and approached the animal. "It's all right, I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly as he closed into the small wounded thing. Once he picked it up gently, he noticed it was a fox kit with bite wounds. The only thing in his thoughts was that it was alone and would die if he left it. That was his resolve. He was sure he could nurse the kit to health, maybe raise it and train it to fight with him, just like the Inuzuka do with their dogs, which meant trying to figure out how they do it. But first he needed to get him some help, and he wasn't qualified to do so. Leaving his clones there with the order, "When you are done, dispel, but one of you take everything back to the apartment." As he took off for the Inuzuka compound and the only vet in the village, /Inuzuka veterinary office / Naruto walked in with the silver kit. "Excuse me, I need some help?" he asked to the empty office. Soon a young girl came in, maybe around 14. "What do you need?" "I'm Hannah, by the way," the girl said. 3 Nin dogs followed behind her. Naruto sat the kid on the counter. I found him while I was practicing. I don't know what happened to him, other than it looked like he was bitten and he was lost. I don't want him to die, he said. The visible yet unshed tears in his eyes were proof that he felt a connection to the assumed orphaned fox. Hana looked at the silver fluff ball as she listened, though soon ran over and started checking the animal. She nodded and whispered things to herself before she flashed an off-color green energy to her hands and started running them over the kit. I healed most of his wounds, but I am going to give you some antibiotics and supplement pills. They are usually only for our dogs, but they should work just the same without any real side effects, other than he might end up bigger than normal. She kind of laughed at the relieved look in Naruto's eyes. Bring him by again when you run out of the pills. I want to do a checkup on him and also to see what the effects of the pills on him are. Naruto nodded. Thank you, I wish I had the money. He was stopped. It's a defenseless animal. I'll just consider studying him as payment. I am training to be a veterinarian, so this is worth it to me. Plus it helps out a sweetheart like you, she said with a smile. Smiling, he gathered up the kit. Shiruba, he looked from the kit to Hana. I think that's what his name will be. Shiruba, I think it suits him, especially if he keeps that coat when he gets older. She smiled and honestly couldn't see why anyone in the village hated this kid. Just remember, I am only here on the weekends by myself. But you should have enough here to last a month. 6 months later. Naruto and Shiruba were sitting in his apartment. While Shiruba was laying down in his basket as the blonde was being covered in lines and glyphs of the experimental array. The last parts were being gone over to ensure that both sets of seals were correct. Before the last clone dispelled, "Boss, you're good to go. Just now it might hurt a lot." He knew that already, but it seemed his shadow clones took on a personality of their own sometimes. Placing his hands on the activation seal, he fused it with his chakra, all the symbols and lines glowing bright blue, before they seeped into his skin. That's when the burning and aching came, as his pathways were split, enlarged, and healed, just as his reserves were replicated in a mirror image of their size and strength but left half full in each one. The original having a more purple color due to the Kyuubi's chakra merging, while the other was a pure dark blue. All this happened in moments, and he could see it all clearly before his eyes snapped open as the last of the seal sunk beneath his skin to vanish from sight. Well, he groaned out, causing Shiruba to look at him. That worked better than I thought, though. No chakra usage till tomorrow. Besides, it's time for you to visit Hanane-chan. The fox yipped and ran over to Naruto. You know, I think you like her more than me. He laughed as the kit licked him. The two took off through the back roads of the village, avoiding everyone they could to arrive at Hana's office. Hana, Shiruba and I are here, he said loud enough for the back room to hear. Sure enough, Hana's triplet of Nin dogs came out and barked before they disappeared to drag her out. Well, I see you're back, she said with a smile. Naruto placing Shiruba on the counter for her to look over. She flashed the seals for a diagnostic jutsu and scanned him a few times and brought out her scroll that she kept on him. Well, he's growing faster than average, which would be the pills, but it looks like he's around you quite a bit while you were using chakra, she stated, more than questioned, as Naruto nodded his head. He learned not to interrupt her, as she had a hard right hook. I didn't think this would happen, but he's turning into a Nin fox. She laughed a little but was more intrigued. Well, you're going to have to start focusing chakra into him to finish the joining between you. I can't say much more about it, but trust me, it will help. Just make sure to use as much chakra as you can. Not realizing exactly who she was talking to, but focus on the two of you becoming one when you do it. She handed him 3 more pills. Give him 1 a week. After the last week, they will be done, so will the joining. She winked at him mischievously. Bring him back by then, so I can see how it worked out. End of 3 weeks. This would be the last day that Hana had said. The last 3 weeks outside of his clones training, Naruto had sat with Shiruba in his lap, slowly pouring his chakra into the fox until he passed out every day. Which he didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but Hana said as much as he could, which happened to be in the end enough to power a small village for a few months. He smiled as he let the energy flow, all of it, both reserves, which meant the kit was getting his own healthy dose of the Kyuubi's chakra. He noticed it was evident as the kit gained more size and muscle like his own. They didn't do anything but this for 3 weeks. Well, this, eat, bath, and sleep. But after today, he could take him to see Hana and find out the results of everything she had him mysteriously doing. Though that would wait as the exhaustion took hold over him, and the kit, getting so much energy pushed into him, made him tired too as his body was shifting quickly. Both slipped into a deep slumber as dark blue chakra surrounded them both before seeping into them. The next day, Naruto woke up to the yips of the fox. Hana-chan, let's go, which caused him to quirk a brow as he looked at the fox that was now easily the size of a fully grown fox. which only meant he was going to be rather huge. "Shiruba, calm down, let's eat, and let me take a shower first," he told the kid as the silver fox trotted over to him. "Sure thing too, San," as he nuzzled Naruto's leg. Okay, I guess she wasn't kidding that I would understand him. But Dad, shaking his head, he made a quick breakfast and then took a shower. Later that day, they stood in Hana's office with her scanning him, as was now normal and usual, Hana-chan's thinking to heart, which caused Naruto to snicker and Hana to look at him funny. "What?" "Well, Shiruba said you're thinking to hard," he answered her, which got her to look at him surprised. Then she started to smile brightly. "Really, you understand him that well?" She started making notes in her scroll. "How long each day did you feed him chakra?" Naruto looked at her a little weird but answered, "Outside of sleeping, eating or showering the entire time for the 3 weeks." Her jaw dropped as she walked over to him and scanned him with the medical jutsu, which caused her eyes to grow several sizes larger. "Your reserves are huge. You mean you drain them every day?" He nodded, not seeing the issue. "Seriously, till you passed out every day?" He nodded again, and she took off to her scroll and began writing quickly. "Why is that so important?" Naruto was curious, and when that was set off, there really wasn't a stopping him. "Well, really it wouldn't be, but you were about 3 years ahead with the connection between you two than any of my family at your age." She paused. "Well, that, and he managed to keep a fairly large portion of that chakra as well as adapted his body to it. If you two managed to figure out a way for him to use that chakra and control it, then you could learn or create techniques to use together. You might have just started a rival clan if you breed him at some point." Naruto laughed. "I don't think I want any grandchildren. I'm not old enough." Hana started laughing. "Why do you say that?" "Well, he calls me too, San." He jaw hung open for a minute before she snapped it shut and scribbled some notes down. "That might explain the bond forging so quickly. But yeah, after today, you guys will have to be on your own and I never helped with anything other than getting him healthy, all right?" she asked nervously, as the dogs seemed to talk to her in their own language. Naruto figured they were getting close to getting caught, and if what he thought she was trying to do was what it was, then she was very, very close to giving out a clan secret or more. "I think I understand, but I can still bring him in for checkups or if he gets injured, right?" "Oh yeah, for that, no problem. Visit fees will be 50 each time, but if you need treatments or anything, it'll be that, and depends on what else." She winked at him to let him know it wasn't what she wanted, but it's the best they could do. As her dogs let her know that her mother was questioning where some of their special pills were, as Hana's younger brother, Kiba, was to start the bonding with his companion. "Well, I guess I will see you every couple of months if we're lucky," Naruto said, though he felt a little sad that he had a sort of friend now that he couldn't see much of without causing problems. A few months later / "All right, Shiruba, I'm going to give you the same seals I did so that you can be like me, all right?" Naruto asked as he was preparing his ink and brushes for the task, as he was drawing them on paper to place that way since fur didn't go well for making intricate lines and symbols. "Sure. And then I can do more of those exercise things, right? Like maybe start climbing trees." Shiruba yipped, which made Naruto laugh a little. "Maybe part of my personality went with the chakra." "Sure thing, kid. But remember, no chakra for a day after we do this, all right? Plus it's going to hurt." The fox nodded his head and laid on the floor until it was time. That turned out to be a few more hours as Naruto tweaked the places in the seal to work better for the kid, before he called him over and placed the paper array over the fox and activated it. In fascination, he watched as the seal transferred from the paper to his companion, sinking into the fur to the skin. All the while, he watched the chakra bleed out and warp around the seals. This must have been what he looked like, as his own seals happened. What intrigued him was the Shiruba had nearly the same dark blue chakra he did. Just what appeared to be flecks of silver floated in his, where in Naruto's it was flecks of red. Slipping the kid a sedative after it was all done, so that he would rest, Naruto started looking over some scrolls for several lower-level jutsu. He had picked one for each element to study, since he was now on the medic level of his control, the kit not far behind. He wanted to find his element, so he figured trying one of each and seeing which was hardest and which was easiest would be a good clue. As he studied them, he thought about the training he and Shiruba had been doing. The kit was picking up the control rather easy, and was finding the perfect places in the taijutsu to fit in. He even learned the chakra attacks for the style. Uzumaki was similar to the style of the Hyuga, with pushing chakra into the opponent. However, the Hyuga aimed for the organs and Tenketsu to shut down the chakra. The Uzumaki forces the pathways wider, bridging them, as well as muscles and joints. Shiruba, with some thoughts from Naruto, had randomly figured out how to do the attacks with his muzzle, paws, and tail. Along with being able to infuse the tail with chakra for strikes, he had learned simple raw manipulation, which gave Naruto the idea of some tricks that didn't use hand seals, but those would take time to figure out. Needless to say, he would And then the Kitsune duo would definitely have a few tricks up their sleeves. The day before Academy / Naruto had received a message from the Hokage to meet him and Jiraiya in his office today. So with all the scrolls, since he made copies, and Shiruba, they ran to the tower and up to the old man's office. "We're here, Gigi," Naruto said as he popped through the door. Sadly, none of the people in the tower spotted him. Since that day 3 years ago, he had been wearing dark gray and blues. The Hokage looked up from his desk to see Naruto looking far different than the last time he had seen him. But he reminded himself that 3 years training with all of that plus Jiraiya's workouts would do that. Though it was the wee part that had him confused, until he saw the silver fox sitting next to Naruto's left side. "Naruto, where and when did you get that?" "Oh, I rescued Shiruba almost a year ago. He's my Nin fox." Which he made a small gesture, to which Shiruba ran up the wall and jumped off to land on his shoulder. "We've been training forever, and he's worked into my taijutsu style." The blonde flashed his fox-like smile and laughed a little. This was the point that Jiraiya hopped through the window. "Well, I see the Gaki's here too, so I take it that it's that time?" The Sannin said, as if it were no problem at all. The Hokage nodded. "Yes, it is." Turning to Naruto, "Now we wanted to see how much you have learned and if there was anything you wanted to focus more on." Naruto smiled, as he hadn't planned on telling about the chakra thread or the Kage Bunshin, as both were beyond useful, seeing as he could control a crap ton of things with his chakra threads, thanks to in part had he had practiced to learn them with Sanban. "Well, I can do the tree and water walking now, though I am done with the Fuinjutsu scrolls Jiraiya-sama left me." Jiraiya's jaw dropped in disbelief. The Hokage, on the other hand, was oblivious to exactly what that meant. "I also learned all the academy-level jutsu needed. Also, I've learned 1 D rank for each element," he smiled. "And Shiruba has learned that to project chakra and infuse parts of his body with it, and he's up to the tree climbing." Jiraiya was seriously thinking the kid had only finished 1 scroll, not all of it, considering how much he said he could do. "What's the most complicated seal you can make, Gaki?" "Oh, that would probably be mine. The Uzumaki Fuinjutsu, double chakra vortex." He smiled, and Jiraiya just nodded, thinking the kid was full of himself. "Really? Let me see it." To which Naruto pulled out a small scroll with the seal array that created the secondary reserve. He left of the extra coils, as most people had no reason to have another set. He just wanted one to see if he could do so. But that proved to have an interesting side effect: one-handed seals, or the fact that he could literally use 2 different chakra-based attacks with different focus. But to the seal he handed Jiraiya, the man looked at the scroll before he opened it, seeing it all in the kid's handwriting, the seal, the description, and even the theory and purpose behind having to use it. He was impressed and a bit flabbergasted that the boy was more of a genius with sealing than his father. "Kid, you know what this seal could do?" "Yeah, I'm using it already, but I figure someone that had a chakra disease, or maybe has to give a portion of their chakra constantly for a jutsu or a bloodline, it might be useful." He didn't notice the Sannin's look when he said he was already using it. "Gaki, why? Your reserves were already bigger than most kids your age." The Sannin questioned. "Well," he lied, "I did it because I found the dead demon seal on my stomach, and the fact that it's constantly leaking into my reserves, it made control impossible. So I trained only 1 set and left the part it was leaking into alone to filter into my trained reserves." This was where the Hokage started understanding what was going on. "Naruto, how long have you known about the seal?" "Oh, since about 2 weeks into studying chakra control. Then what it was and what it did took about another year." He sighed, "Plus putting that together with the way the village treats me, add in which demon was around this village on my birthday, and well, I would say that I hold and am stealing chakra from the Kyuubi no Kitsune," he said with a small bit of venom in his voice. The 2 men looked between each other and started to say something. "Don't bother, it's over with, and I can't change anything, neither can you. Besides, I really don't care. There are people that care for me, and that's enough." He smiled sadly. "But since I start classes tomorrow, I need to have Shiruba registered as my companion. Plus, I wouldn't mind maybe learning something new." Here he looked at the Sannin, as he remembered his promise. The Sannin took in the appearance of the fox and Naruto. Not many of the older generation would like him working with one, which just made it all the better. Idiots. Well, given the Uzumakis being seal masters, maybe it was a bloodline that they picked it up so quickly. But now he was tasked with agreeing with the boy. After all, he did promise to teach him something cool if he surprised him. "Well, there's a few things I could teach you, but I'll have to wait on most of them until you get older." Jiraiya fished in his pocket for a slip of paper and handed the blank square to Naruto. "Now, channel your chakra into the paper. It'll determine your affinity." Naruto took the paper and pushed a bit of his chakra into the paper. At first, nothing seemed to happen, until the edges started to drip with water that soon soaked the entire paper before it sliced down the middle, leaving small crystals along the cut that spread to cover the page. Naruto figured easily that it was wind and water, but the crystals weren't cold like ice, nor did it even look like ice. He turned his blue eyes from the paper to the two older men that he had respected the most out of the village, Futon, Suedon, and Shoton. The Hokage smiled a knowing smile. You are correct on the first two, and I am sure Jiraiya would agree with you, but knowing your mother's bloodline, it's actually Kochiku, or heavy chakra, that allowed that to happen. Getting looks of curiosity and unbelieving from the other two, he continued. It's similar to the crystal release, in the fact that you can form your chakra into a practically solid state, and seeing how the other elements appeared, you have already reached the second level of your bloodline, which condenses your chakra naturally, making it require less to create jutsu. If you put in as much of your chakra as others to make them, they would either be overpowered or in some instances like clones, they would be more doppelgangers than clones. The blonde was surprised by this, as he had been using his chakra like others and hadn't noticed a difference like that. But to be honest with himself, he had yet to compare them to others. So I have outrageously large reserves and barely have to use chakra now? So it just means all my jutsu will be kick-ass? The two older men laughed, seeing the boy in front of them, unaware of what he already knew. Yes. But unfortunately, we don't have anything further on what your bloodline is, just what your mother had told me while she was still alive. Sarutobi said, now in the scroll I gave you, there was mention of elemental exercises, dealing with leaves. He saw the boy nod. Now to practice this, you need to make the leaf cut in half cleanly like the paper, and also work on making the leaf become covered in water. Jiraiya took the time they were talking to reach into his pack and pull out a couple of scrolls. These are some water and wind jutsu that I have picked up on my trips. I can't use them that well seeing as I'm earth and fire. He tossed them to the boy. They are ranked, and the scrolls and some history for the technique and the way I have heard or seen them used. Naruto smiled as he looked to Shiruba. I'm going to learn them too. Right, Tusan? To which he just smiled and reached down to pet the fox. So with my reserves and as far as I've gotten on my control exercises, C-rank jutsu would still be the highest I could manage, right? To which the Hokage smiled, seeing that Naruto was showing some sense even if he was still in their minds a hyperactive child that had a severe learning streak. Yes, though never underestimate the lower level jutsu. If he moves as quickly through this training, I might be able to retire sooner, he chuckled. Just take your time learning them. Now we come to one of the bigger reasons you are here. He sighed, knowing that his wishes and that of the boy's father were all but not seen. You are aware of how other people have treated you. Because of your seal, this will be even more so among many of the students, even if they don't know the reason, as well as possibly your instructors. Jiraiya took over for his sensei. What he means is gaki. They will try and teach you things wrong, probably not offer to help you, and on your tests they will either give you the wrong ones or make them harder. He looked at his mentor. So we can do a few things different from here before you start. One, we either let you go as you are and have you come here once a month to take the exams and to evaluate your skills to replace the ones in the academy, use a technique to make you look different and let you go as an orphan. Or you can go, and we will not interfere, and you will just have to work harder on your own to deal with them. Naruto looked at his fox, knowing he wasn't going to leave him alone and that unlike others, the fox was growing with him in intelligence and would soon be learning how to use his own chakra for more than training control, which gave him a very good idea for two seals to work on. I think Shiruba and I will just tough it out. Besides Gigi, that book you gave me said one of the strongest skills is deception, and the strongest tool is my mind. He spoke as he quoted a few parts of the Shinobi Guide. I would just need to be able to get into the library without being tossed out. He grumbled, since he was never let in there, and he never tried to force his way in either. The Hokage smiled sadly. Then when you need to use a library to study, you may use mine. I'm sure it will be better in the end. Plus myself or Asuma will be able to help you when we are around, especially since he's a wind user like yourself. Well, that's settled, but you mentioned another reason that you wanted me here too? Naruto asked, and the fox yipped in agreement. Well, that stems from the last part. We suspect one of the instructors that you will have of being more than just resentful towards you. We wanted you to keep an eye on them and let us know what they are doing. We won't tell you which one, so you will really have to work on observing them if nothing else during class. He hated doing this, but the boy here was the only one he would trust with doing this. You could pass out right this year, holding his hand up. However, this will be a mission I am giving you. I want you to stay in the academy for 4 years, which means you will have to fail the graduation exam twice. He watched Naruto as he seemed to think it over. Naruto was thinking about it all, And if he played dead last for that long, he would wind up paired with another prodigy or someone who forced themselves to be one. He was also going to end up being a year older than his teammates, since he was starting early and would be finishing later. I'll do it as long as you promise that I will not be put on the Uchiha's team, no matter the ranking in the class or request of the sensei. That took the Hokage aback, as he would have liked him to end up with Sasuke, and Kakashi wouldn't like this since that was his concession to teaching the Uchiha. Why do you say that? Naruto laughed bitterly. Most of the attacks on me were done by Uchiha. Secondly, I don't want all my skills taken by their piece of crap eyes. Jiraiya held back his laugh, as the blonde summed up his thoughts on the council's decision to coddle the Uchiha, whereas Sarutobi sighed, seeing that this was going to be a major headache, especially knowing Naruto was more advanced and Kakashi would be late and be forced to favor the Uchiha. It just wouldn't end well. I will try my best, but if you do end up placed that way, is there something else that you would want? Naruto looked at his hands for a moment. Register and have Shiruba treated like an Inuzuka Nin dog before I leave. He looked to his kit and smiled before he looked between Jiraiya and the old man. And I'll think of something for when that happens. Which mollified the Hokage, as he knew it was going to happen. That I can do, and since you accept the mission, it will be a classified C rank long term. Payments will be once a month for you and Shiruba. Most people didn't know the small fact that Inuzuka dogs were paid as well for being ninja, which made them one of the richest clans, though they never showed that or most doubted that they even knew that themselves. After their discussion, they talked a little more on how Naruto had been, as they filled out the paperwork for Shiruba to be a nin kitsune, which was the blonde's idea since kitsune were able to use chakra and foxes couldn't. If the legends were true, which the Bija were, it would mean that his companion would soon have another tail. He also had Shiruba tested for any affinities, which they though was strange just to be proven wrong, as Shiruba showed to have Raiden and Suiton as his elements, which they gave Naruto a scroll on Raiden, just so he could understand the process since it could kill his companion. But they soon left, leaving just the Hokage and Jiraiya sitting in the office in silence for a time. Sensei, that kid reminds me so much of both of them, it's a little creepy. I mean, one minute he's as serious as his mother, the next he's as carefree and curious as his father. Add in there hasn't been hide nor hair of a flux from the demon. I'm starting to wonder if it's even alive in that seal. He spoke after pulling the key scroll from a summoned toad and looked over the design. This shows he's still getting the fox's chakra, but it's not changed in almost 4 years. He murmured, pointing to the flow seal on the array. It's like he's found a way to not draw on any more of the fox's chakra, instead just using his own over and over again. He paused and pulled out the scroll of the reserve split array that Naruto had made and looked it over. That boy, he only lets the fox's chakra into one of his reserves, draining the untainted one, which still causes both to grow larger since they are still connected. He points to a small seal that filters. This lets him pull his own chakra from the other side to fill his empty one, but leaves the demon chakra, which slows down the absorption rate. The two older men looked at each other in a moment of rare insight and understanding. Yadagi's chakra reserves are all his own, without the help from the fox. Even the flow is a one-way. The only way around that would be to either have 2 sets of coils, or... He paused and looked over the seal, as if seeing something was missing. He gasped, "Sensei, this isn't the full seal. I almost bet the Gaki made a layer seal that split his coils into 2 sets that were still connected in several places." He pointed to a few places in the array that more than likely only a seal master could find. See, here's where the separation seal would work. As well as adjusting the flow, it would render chakra exhaustion practically an unrealistic idea to him. Secondly, it would be easier to use the 2 different chakra without destroying his control. I was wrong, this boy is a genius that even his father wouldn't be able to pass. Sarutobi listened to Jiraiya. He wasn't a seal master himself, but he knew a fair deal about the art. To hear what was being said was impressive, and he knew just who would benefit the most from a seal like this. He summoned an ANBU and had him deliver a message to Shibi to come to his office. Before he turned back to his former student, the rant made it quite amusing, as a mere boy had surpassed Jiraiya in hypothetical sealing. But then imagination was always a big part of what Fuinjutsu was about. Eventually Shibi arrived to find both the Hokage and the Sannin seated around the desk looking over a scroll. "You requested my presence, Lord Hokage?" Causing both men to look up from the scroll. "Yes, Shibi, I have, because I have some questions before I make a decision." He motioned for the free seat, which the man took. "You see, a student of Jiraiya's and Fuinjutsu has created a seal that would benefit your clan greatly if my memory serves me right. He slid the array over to Shibi to look at and read the description Naruto wrote as to the purpose of the seal. He read through the description, thinking it over and discussing it with the queen of his hive, which took them some more time to come to a logical and agreeable decision. So this seal would technically double our chakra stores, while cutting them in half to be used independently. He stated in a rather emotionless voice. Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, both sides would still be usable, and when the secondary runs low, the seal will refill it from the primary. I could see why Sensei called you, and I bet the Gaki had your clan in mind when he made this. He mentioned that it would be for a clan when he showed it to us. And given his nature, I will agree that it was for the Aburame clan, and yes, the seal does work, as its creator has been using it for a year to test the kinks, I would imagine. The Hokage supplied. He also never mentioned recognition or payment for the seal. Shibi listened to the two respected men before him as he thought over the benefits of the seal. His Kakai would have half of his total stores, which was less than what they should receive, but then they would be able to draw from a complete copy of his reserves, allowing him more than enough for other jutsu. His hive agreed that since it would double his total yet keep it in half, they would take only from the one reserve. We find this a most gracious gift. If I or my clan could express our gratitude to your student. Jiraiya snickered. Uzumaki Naruto. Been teaching him for 3 years. Don't be obvious about it. I'm sure he doesn't need or want the extra attention. Shibi nodded. It won't be announced outside of my clan, but he will be considered a member. In all things, I will visit him personally tonight and deliver this information to him. Taking the scroll and bowing himself out, he left to have his clan start the preparations for the sealing and to find a hive for the boy, knowing full well they couldn't join with him because of his age. Later that night, Naruto was sitting in the middle of his apartment, which he had been decorating with his seals. He found old, nearly destroyed furniture for free. A few repair seals and some hinge-based seals made them all match and real. They were all experiments as to his 2 other seals, but he enjoyed the nice, refined look of his home. Even his potted plants had seals for watering and nutrients. He was going out of his way to figure out the limit to seals, but had found none so far. He was currently looking over the designs for the hand seal he was trying to make for his companion, when a knock on his door caused him to look up. Walking over, he tapped the seal on the door, which acted like a one-way mirror. Seeing that it wasn't a mob or anyone that looked like they would kill him, he opened the door. Can I help you, Aburame-sama? The man looked down at the boy, who was probably no older than his own son. Actually, yes, but do you mind if I come inside? He asked stoically. Naruto nodded and allowed him to come in before shutting the door and summoning a clone in the kitchen to make some tea. Tea will be ready in a moment, but you may sit if you like, since this seems less like a social visit, he said as Shiruba came out of the bedroom, hopping up on one of the chairs and laying down to watch. Shibi nodded. The boy didn't seem nervous, and his own Kakai were not reacting violently to the demon chakra in the boy, which told him it was well contained and not an issue. That would be agreeable. He settled himself in one of the seats that looked rather nice and was truly comfortable. I came to visit you about the seal that you showed the Hokage and Jiraiya-sama. This was the opening, and he would see where it went from there. Naruto settled himself on the couch and looked to Shiruba for a moment. He figured that out pretty quickly. But yes, I did design it for your clan after watching some of them train with their teams. With the clean sweep of the Uchiha, other clans need to be filling that void instead of waiting on them to come back in years. He looked to Shibi. Most of my mistreatment has been at that clan's hands, but I do not see why a single eye makes them better than the rest of us. I want to see this village strong, but not reliant on just 1 or 2 clans for their needs. He didn't want to see himself reliant on just one person either, but he struggled to pass that. He had Gigi, Erosanin, and Hanachan. The list would grow over time. Shibi listened to the boy, hearing the bitter resentment in some of his words. Yet, the truth that echoed among them was a wisdom that no child should have attained. Not that it was wrong, but the life that this boy has led was unacceptable in any society, yet they forced it upon him for something he contained, like his own clan shunned for their companions. I see. That makes much sense, and with the seal applied to my clan, that would be a solid step in that direction. Which is why I have come to make an offer for the seal. Naruto started to speak, but Shibi shook his head. Your goals are admirable and logical, but this is something I and my clan have agreed upon. He reached inside a long coat and pulled out a gourd that hung from a strap. What you have done in allowing my clan to have this seal has earned you a place among us. Though you aren't able to fully join with our Kakai, we wish for you to still have this hive. He handed the gourd over and watched as they swarmed out to meet their host. Now, they will require your chakra, but as to how you and they will bond is not something we have studied, as the bonding is done at the age of 3, yet with your unique advantage you may still bond with them, though the outcome is unsure. Naruto nodded his thanks. This would be another advantage in the future, As well, he now had a full clan behind him. Thank you, Shibi-sama. I will cherish them as the honor that they are and that you have shown me. He was going to try and bond them tonight, that is all. Though if or when you successfully bond with them, either internally or externally, please visit our compound so that we may observe the differences. Shibi spoke, as another Naruto brought out the tea and sat the tray down before dispelling. He raised a brow at this, but said nothing. A child using the Kage Bunshin, but logically given the size of this child's reserves it wasn't much. His own companions told him that they were unusually large. Naruto poured the tea and both discussed what this would mean for Naruto in the future, as far as sanctuaries, and training as well as a family of sorts. Not to mention the Aburame owned several shops in the village that would charge him fair prices as he was an honorary clan member. All of this Naruto thought over as he smiled, serving them both tea and speaking of a few things. Academy the next day. It was the first day of classes and Naruto's mission start date. The night before had been painful, but unexpected. After Shibi had left, he went through the bonding with the hive. The results were mixed and not at all expected. Half the hive didn't make it through the joining, as the demonic chakra destroyed them. The rest were severely weakened. The other interesting thing was that their tunnels sealed over in chakra after they entered his body. Natural mini-Henges leaving his body flawless in appearance as it was before the start of the process. But the most drastic difference he noted was that his Kakai did nothing but rest and start to breed within him. His chakra and that of the demon feeding, healing and changing the Kakai to match him left him tired and drained. He only knew that they wouldn't be able to leave his body for a long time as they would die off quickly and have to adapt his chakra and body in order to survive. For now, he would forget about them until they either died completely or became able to live inside him. The chakra depletion wasn't enough to bother him and left him with still more than enough for everything else. But now our blonde ninja in training seated himself in the classroom and looked around, seeing several older students and a few from the clans, namely an Inuzuka and their dog, giving him a strange look as Shiruba was laying across his shoulders. What's that fox doing here? He turned to look at the Inuzuka. He's my companion, just as your dog is yours, Inuzuka-san. He's registered as my nin kitsune. He smiled, for once glad to have the enlarged canines like the Inuzuka do, as it was a trait that separated them from others as they were more animal in nature. The boy laughed. You keep telling yourself that, when me and Sumura beat the crap out of you, showing what a real companion is about. Causing Naruto to shake his head. You want me to prank him too, San? Which Naruto thought wasn't a half-bad idea. Later, soon the two instructors walked into the room, quiet. I am Yumino Irika, I will be your head instructor, and this is Humizuki. He will be acting as my assistant. The two looked over the students and were fine until both of their eyes landed on Naruto, while Urkua's was on the fox and Mizuki's was on Naruto. Both glared, but said nothing, though, which Naruto logged that away in the back of his mind for later reference. The rest of the lesson went slow. He already knew what they were teaching, and would take that time to work on the seals he was making for Shiruba, which he thought if the Inuzuka proved to be useful like the Aburame did, he might even give them the seals as well, in exchange for allowing him free vet care for Shiruba. Many months passed like this, glares, challenges, and even more boring lectures on what he already had taught himself. But it gave him plenty of time to leave his clones at home to study, and then dispel to give him the information, or to train on chakra control since they were now pushing into the medic level control. The rest worked on the leaf exercise for his elements, which he decided that once he got the seal for the hand seals right, he would have Shiruba learn the Kage Bunshin too, so they could stay home and work on their skills. As for his class ranking, so far he hung at the bottom. The taijutsu they taught him was all wrong, but he used that one. He failed every test because they had genjutsu on them. He would randomly profess to becoming the greatest ninja ever, or spout off random topics that really didn't mean much. But they all left him pretty much alone, except the Inuzuka. They had a sort of friendship that came to a rivalry whenever they sparred. Naruto, of course, learned their techniques, but found them not usable with the Kitsune companion, though it made interesting headway into his research into that area. But now it was summer break and he headed home. His Kakai have yet to balance themselves out inside his body. But something told him they would eventually. It was one of the reasons he had yet to visit the Aburame clan house, though the stores were frequented often. Tools, clothes, food, and other essentials he bought from them. He visited Hana once a month still at the veterinarian's to let her check over Shiruba, since he started having the kitsune, were weight seals, and didn't want to strain the kit too much. The only seal he had managed to finish was the one that allowed Shiruba to start to talk. This used chakra to create the vibrations in the vocal cords and hold their shape as words and sounds. It just took the impulse from the brain, and instead of making yips and barks, it would created words and other sounds. Thanks, Hana-chan, Shiruba said after he hopped back over to Naruto's shoulder, causing the girl to jump in shock. Did he just talk? To which Naruto smiled and nodded his head. How? Our dogs don't develop that until they are much older. And even then, nothing that defined in such a short time. Naruto smiled. It's a seal. It converts his thoughts that he wants to say, with chakra to create it to sound patterns of words. The boy smiled. I could give them to your dogs if you want, that you would need to spend time working with them on chakra control for the volume and let them work on making the words right. Hana thought about it, and having her trio talk would be awesome, and it might help her when working with other dogs so they could translate. Yeah, I'll do it. Besides, if mom likes the idea, we can maybe buy the seal from you or something. Naruto smiled and pulled out a storage scroll, releasing 3 slips of paper. Placing one on each dog's muzzle, he pushed the chakra into the paper, transferring the seal over to the dogs. Before the papers flashed to dust, the faint outline of the seal was visible before it stretched and wrapped around the head of all the dogs, as it sunk into their fur to become invisible. There, now depending on their chakra levels, their control, and their own intelligence, they should be pretty fluent and understandable in a few days. He said, looking over the dogs to make sure the seal settled into place, and was happy with the placements. But yeah, if your clan likes the seal, I'm sure they might even like the other one I am working on, he said with a mysterious smirk. Hana just smiled, seeing as if this was a sample of the kid's sealing ability, and this worked out for his own companion, it would severely help the younger children in her clan adjust to working with the Nikin. Can they still understand and use their own language? He smiled. Yeah, they can, so it can still be a secret, as I only wanted to better understand Shiruba, but the other seal will help them learn and use jutsu like we do. He smiled. Naruto was so glad that people were liking his seals. That and his plan to build up the village away from the Uchiha was also working. The only good Uchiha is Itachi or a dead one. He thought darkly, wondering how his many times rescuer was doing. Well, thank you, Naruto-kun. After I work with the triplets, I will show it to my mom. She's the clan head after all, so it's up to her if she wants the seal for the whole clan or not. Hana knew she would take it with a grain of salt since she seemed to dislike the boy for some reason. Well, we will see you next month. Come on, Shiruba, we need to go train. Your control is still not that great, Naruto said after he started walking to the door. But Tusan, I haven't been working as long as you, the kitsune said as he followed Naruto out the door, causing Hana to crack up laughing. As they were walking out of the compound, both stopped, catching the now familiar scent of Tsumaru and Kuraba. Looking around the corner, I know you two are there. I can smell you, and so can Shiruba. The two aforementioned Inuzuka and Nikin came around the corner. Dang it, Naruto, you're just as hard to sneak up on as mom. The boy and dog smiled. Well, that either means you need to learn to cover your scent better or not sneak up on people from downwind. Naruto smiled at his friend. Shiruba ran over to Tsumaru, and they started rolling around playing with each other. All right, maybe, but you're the coolest person in outclass. I don't see how you fail. After all, you help me study all the time during lunch, Kuraba said as he was trying to wrap his mind around it and failing. Kuraba, if he had dog ears, would have perked up at that. Instead, he settled for nodding. Well, the Hokage made a law, so anyone that wasn't old enough to remember wouldn't be told. So that's why the adults kick me around. He smiled sadly as he watched the other boy for any signs of doing the same to him. Well, the 4th Hokage didn't kill the QB. You can't kill them, just contain them, or in his case, seal them. He waited for the gears to fall into place. So he didn't kill the demon, instead he sealed it? Well, then why does that have to deal with you? Naruto sighed again as he really wanted to share this with someone his own age. Let me ask you a question first. If I sealed a kunai into a scroll, does that make the scroll a kunai? He watched for anything that might make him regret telling the boy. Kuraba tilted his head, thinking and looking much along the lines of, what does this have to do with it? No, that's just stupid. He paused, a light going off. He sealed the demon into you? To which Naruto nodded. But why? Why not a scroll or something else? Naruto let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. Well, because it has so much chakra that it would break the seal, but since it was sealed into a baby, the body would hold the chakra and pull on it to keep it weakened in there. He looked up at his friend. You hate me too now, don't you? Kuraba was a bit shocked. Hell no. I mean, you're not a demon running around killing everyone. Though that really explains why you smell like a fox. I always figured it was because of Shiruba, but then my whole clan smells like a dog even without being around them. He tilted his head to the side, but like you said, you're not the fox but the scroll it's stuck in. He nodded his head with a note of finality. Naruto could have hugged him at that point. Thanks. It means a lot that I have at least one friend that knows and doesn't think any different. The Inuzuka came over and wrapped his arm around the blonde, giving him a noogie. Not just means Sumeru and I are going to have to work harder to beat you with you demon battery. He laughed, and the Nikin barked in agreement. Well, Shiruba and I were going to go and train to work out some moves for us to use together, like your clan does. It's just we're not straight fighters like you are, so it's not easy, but who knows. I figure everything else out on my own, so why should this be any different? The Inuzuka and his dog were looking at their friend in a twisted understanding. They knew Naruto was faster than them. Even he was more flexible and hurt like hell when he hit, but they could see he was stronger. Well, aren't Kitsune usually tricky? Like maybe Genjutsu-style attacks rather than head-on ones? He asked out loud and thought. I mean, if you could figure out a version of the man-beast clone, that would be useful. He worried his lip. I would try and help, but they're clan secrets. Maybe you could talk to Mom, or maybe Tsum, since she's the alpha for the clan, she would know more. The blonde nodded at the mention of Genjutsu. It was really an area that he hadn't found a need to learn himself, but maybe working with Shiruba it might work, and it would be interesting. It looked like it was time to start studying them and see what they could do in tandem and maybe have the Kitsune do on his own. The clone they do would work too, and he could see the implications behind that as well. It would take some training to get it down. Yeah, maybe. Thanks, Karaba. He flashed a fox-like grin. Come on, Shiruba, we have all summer to train, and make sure these two don't beat us. Karaba smirked. Oh yeah? Well, Sumeru and I will just work twice as hard. He shook his fist at the retreating people. Come by and spar us sometime this summer. 2 months into the summer break Naruto was sitting in his now overtly lavish apartment. He enjoyed sealing too much and had definitely used quite a few for just the purpose of decor. Yet that isn't what he was doing right this moment. No, rather he was bent over a large seal on a scroll, checking it for mistakes. Having worked how the individual hand seals into a seal form which he found already existed, irked him a little. Though that part out of the way, he was working on a way to activate the different seals in multiple and random orders so that they would manipulate chakra to form jutsu. There being only 12 seals was helpful, so not that many were needed. However, looking over jutsu that were far beyond his level of skill showed that repeats of seals would be needed. The idea of a limiter seal like the ones used in flash tags had crossed his mind. Ugh, it won't work this way. He rolled the scroll up and put it in the shelf of Not a Clue, which held several attempts of many different seals he was working on. Standing up, he stretched, his back cracking before he looked around the room. He flared his chakra to signal his clones to disperse. After a letter to the Hokage about how small his apartment was and if he could just buy the building or give him a better apartment. Well, the Hokage bought the building and sent the rent to Naruto, which he used his clones and studied up on construction and some house architecture. After that, he took over the top floor and turned it into a penthouse/lab. He still checked on his Kakai, but they had yet to last longer than the hatching of the next generation, though they were adapting to his unique chakra better. He figured at this rate another year before they would even do more than feed and breed. But there was really nothing he could do right now for them than hope, which is why his attention turned to the memories from his clones. He was up to the 2nd level of elemental manipulation, which he smirked at. Something he could do this summer, as he pulled the scrolls Jiraiya had given him, looking back through the list of jutsu. The wind blade and hidden mist techniques were the two he was working on. He could keep up the mist for almost an hour now, but the wind blade kept moving it. He was determined to find a way around that, so he created the air blade, feeling the way his chakra moved in it. When it dawned on him that the air was pushing outward from the blade, he focused on having the wind cycle inward. Of course, this made it much denser and had a slight whistling sound he barely heard, which to him meant no one would hear it. Dismissing the blade, he summoned the mist in his lab and then reformed the blade. The effect was noticeable as the blade sucked in the vapors, pushing them out the end of the blade. With a sigh, he dismissed both. Shiruba, come here. He waited on the Kitsune to come into the room, which the silver fox soon appeared in a streak of speed. Good. Now we are going to work out how to teach you jutsu without seals since I can't get that seal to work. Well, I figured out how you do that clone thing. You stopped using seals for it, the Kitsune said with a smirk in his voice. From what you made me read, pout, all the hand seals do is help control your chakra into a pattern to create the jutsu. He jumped up on the table. So really I just need to be able to learn the patterns for the jutsu. I mean, the Kagebunshin doesn't even use a real hand seal. Naruto listened to Shiruba as he explained it from a different viewpoint. It was true he was using the shadow clones without hand seals, which meant he had mastered the technique. Mastered, control, manipulation, patterns. He started smiling as his eyes brightened with the ideas. Shiruba, I love you. The fox preened under the praise from his Tusan. As he sat there, See, I am so much better than those Nikin. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, he focused for a moment before a cloud of smoke appeared revealing another silver fox. The Shiruba seemed pretty tired. Huh? Naruto spun around hearing the jutsu being called out and feeling the chakra. He saw the smoke fade revealing another fox, and smiled. How did you figure that out? Well, I have seen you do it every day for almost a year too, San. Besides, I can sense chakra, so I just mimicked the feelings. It takes longer than learning from the seals like you do, but if I can remember the feeling of them, I can copy them. He swished his tail happily. Naruto thought on that for a while. Alright, how much chakra do you feel you have left? Well, I think I could make one more, but I would pass out. He said sincerely. Naruto smiled, knowing how much chakra this took even if he could use less. He put just as much as everyone else would have too. Well, until you can make 3, I want you to make 1 every day, and leave with one of my clones who will go through all the seals with you until you can mimic them yourself, while the real you is working on chakra building. So more weights and tree and water walking exercises until you pass out. He smirked. When you can do 3 clones, I'll give you all the Genjutsu scrolls I can. Since I will focus on ninjutsu, you can focus on Genjutsu. Then we have our taijutsu together. I do fuinjutsu, so maybe you can talk Hanane-chan into teaching you some medical jutsu. The fox was smiling. Even through his inability to do so, you could tell. So that means I can start doing the Raiden training now too, then right too, San? Naruto nodded, which wasn't a problem seeing how the jutsu he had for Raiden were stunning attacks and quick strikes which would work perfectly for his companion. A week before the academy started .. Naruto was sitting in Hana's office as she checked Shiruba over, her 3 Nikin talking to each other and them. Everything was going according to usual until an older woman came in, which caused Naruto and Shiruba to tense up from her scent. She was the alpha. They couldn't explain it, but that is just the smell she gave off. Hana, what are you doing? Hana jerked up and looked at her. Sama, I was just giving Shiruba a checkup for Naruto. The woman looked from Hana to the fox and then to Naruto. She sniffed the scent of fox was heavy in the room between the fox and the boy himself. She could have sworn she heard more voices than just 2 people. Who else was here? I heard them talking when I was passing by. The young Inuzuka looked to Naruto, who just nodded a little bit, since the Nikin could speak just like they could now. They had picked up how to do it rather quickly, which must be because they grew up listening to it. Along with the joining they went through seemed to increase their intelligence. Well, that would be the Nikin and Shiruba. She scratched the back of her head. In a gesture she picked up from the blonde. You see, Naruto made a seal that let Shiruba talk, and I let him put it on my Nikin. Shiruba, sensing the slightly hostile and disbelieving air. Yatu-san let me talk like he does, and did the same for Hana-chan's Ninkins. Isn't that right? He spoke, causing Sum's brows reach her hairline. The 3 dogs decided to speak up and save their friends. Yeah, Naruto put the seals on us, which was really weird but cool at the same time, so we could talk and it let us understand better too. They started talking and each would pick up where the last one left off. It was kind of creepy, but they were triplets. Some looked at the dogs as they spoke, back to Hana, Shiruba, and then to Naruto. Let me see the seal. She ordered, to which Naruto pulled out the scroll and popped one out of the storage seal and handed it to her. See, it connects the thoughts they want to voice to their chakra and vocal cords. So it produces the words. Like we do. He started to speak slowly but got more confident as he went. It took them almost 3 months to get this good. Though they can still speak through their usual ways, I just wanted to do something nice for Hana since she helps me with keeping Shiruba healthy. Some may be crude and very much an animal when it came down to it, but she knew quite a bit about sealing. Not enough to be considered a master, but enough to do it for the simple seals. She looked over the seal and noticed it shared similar ties to a few mind control seals, but it tied it to the body from its own mind. What's the chakra have to do with it though? Arnie can learn to speak on their own if they choose. Naruto unabashed. Well, it's to help heal any damage to the cords, and using the chakra helps build control and reserves for your Nikin. It's how Shiruba has started to learn some jutsu on his own, he said proudly, to which Sum looked between the boy and the fox. She wanted to be angry that he was here, but he was only a pup, one that seemed to take after her clan with working with a canine. Everything she thought of to make her hate him faded now that she was talking to him. It all fell on the fox he had sealed inside, not him. She cursed herself for falling into the mindset along with the rest of the village. Well, you give my clan the seal, and you can have free treatments for him here. I'll even see if we have any jutsu that might work for you that we don't use, because styles have changed. But no telling anyone about this seal, or that our clan is sharing jutsu. Got it, pup? Naruto held his smile and sighed, as he tilted his head to the side in a submissive gesture that she picked up on. Yes, Sama. This seal will make your clan stronger, and the village since the Uchiha have fallen. The glint in his eye at that didn't get past her either. True, she wasn't going to shed more tears than needed at that loss. But to give her clan an edge up, and to help the village, she wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Fine. Next time you come for a check and I will have anything I think will be worth what I'll have here. Naruto nodded in understanding as she turned to look at Hana before she walked out the door. Everyone there sighed as a relief flooded them. He unsealed a large stack of the seals and handed them to Hana. Just remind her that the seal should be used after bonding with the Ninkin. To be safe. // last year in the academy / Naruto, now 11, stood a little more than 5 foot tall, his blonde hair grown longer, but still pulled back, leaving the bangs to frame his face. Stood in the back of the classroom. He couldn't wait for this year to be over. He ran a hand to straighten out his clothes, dark blue ambu-style pants, and closed-toed shoes that were flexible. His shirt, the same dark blue, was sleeveless to reveal the full-length sleeves of the black ninja mesh shirt he wore under it. A modified black trench, with the Uzumaki swirl on its back in blue, hung open with several pockets for scrolls. At his side sat probably the largest fox anyone had ever seen, his twin tails twitching as he sat on his haunches, Shiruba's head coming to Naruto's waist. This would be his last year here, and he couldn't be more grateful. Fail or pass the exam, he was already a genin. The Hokage had taken care of that last year, in private of course. But he was interested since some son Kiba and Shibi's son Shino would be in his class this year. So he would have friends of a sort. He did miss Kuraba, but he was graduated and doing missions now for a few years. He simply sat in his seat and waited. It didn't take long for last year's students to make their way in. It seemed he was in the class for heirs, which after the losses of the Kyuubi attack, many had sought to refill their numbers. Hyuga, Akamichi, Nara, the Uchiha, Inuzuka, Yamanaka, and several others, including civilians that sought the glory of ninja life. He motioned for Shino to sit with him, getting a nod from the boy. He was soon joined by Shikamaru and Chuji. Shino looked at him strangely, if it could be said as such, from within his coat and glasses, before a single Kakai flew over and crawled up the boy's sleeve. Naruto just nodded before he returned his gaze to the other two. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I already am familiar with Shino. He nodded his head to indicate the Aburame. Troublesome, the Nara said. I'm Shikamaru, and this is Chuji. He indicated the heavier boy that was currently eating handfuls of chips. What's with the kitsune? Naruto smiled, looking down at Shiruba. He's my companion, much like the Inuzuka use Kin or the Aburame use their Kakai. To which he felt the boy's Kakai move out of his arm and fly back to Shino. The other two boys seemed oblivious to this action. Shino seemed to be thinking, which Naruto knew it was conversing with his hive. You are the one father spoke of. To which Naruto nodded. He had yet to have the Aburame look over his hive. I suggest you visit soon. Father would be interested in this development. Naruto nodded his agreement. It was long overdue. Perhaps you would escort us there after classes today? To which Shino nodded. The whole conversation had caught the Nara's attention, as he had known Shino for several years, and had never heard his friend talk so much in a relative amount of time. He would file it away for later, as right now interrupting them would be too troublesome. Things continued on until two girls, one blonde and one with strange pink hair, walked in together only to stop and see only one seat near the Uchiha. They both started a cat fight over who got to sit there. Shouts and yells disrupted the rather peaceful classroom. This was what Irika and Mizuki walked in on. Quiet, he coughed after yelling. Now take a seat so we may begin. If you refuse to follow my rules, you will be out the door and off the list to be shinobi. The class quickly settled down. Now we are going to spend a day evaluating your skills so we can adjust ourselves or work with you on them. He placed several papers on the board that held categories and names of the students. We will begin with a written test, followed by splitting into these groups and cycling through the different categories. With that said, Mizuki passed out the tests, and they began working on them. Naruto, on the other hand, wrote random answers, not truly seeing the point for him, as he could see the Jinjutsu on the test. // after school / Naruto, Shino, Shikamaru, and Chuji were walking down the street. Naruto, how come everything they had you perform was so much more advanced or worded poorly? The Nara wanted to know. It had confused him how the blonde was being treated, and the fact that Naruto simply seemed to let it wash over him. Naruto sighed. They dislike me for something that happened on my birthday 11 years ago. I had no control over it, yet they insist on taking out their anger, hatred, and grief on me. He didn't really give much away, but to the Nara that was more than enough. Shino, on the other hand, knew what that was, not because he was told, but because he was informed by the Kakai within him. Naruto and he both knew it wouldn't be long before the Nara put it together enough to ask, "Well, this is where we part ways. Naruto, if you still wish to come with me to see my father, we must head this way." He indicated a path diverging from the other two boys. Naruto just nodded and waved to the other two as they split up. The two walked in silence as they approached the Aburame compound. It was more of a sprawling home with several outer houses and a network. They were very simple and efficient, being the only word Naruto could come up with for them. Crossing through the main gate, the two were covered in Kakai, this being the reason not many came to visit. It was simply a security measure, as you were either allowed, had Kakai, or you were an intruder and would be sucked dry. These two were simply left alone to pass through the cloud to enter the main courtyard. Naruto stepped aside to let Shino lead the way as he didn't know where to go. So he followed the boy through the house into his father's office, where Shibi was seated at his desk going over some documents. "Father, I have brought Uzumaki-san with me. He has an interesting situation that I am sure you will be able to assist him with." Shino spoke, then bowed out to leave. Naruto stood there as Shibi nodded to his son and watched him leave. "So Naruto, what would be the situation, as I would appear to deal with your Kakai?" The blonde took a moment to speak. "I have bonded with the hive that you gave me, though the outcome is quite different. They seem to be having difficulty adapting to my chakra. They live long enough to create the next generation, though they seem to be living longer now as I have felt their numbers growing slowly." He looked to the clan head. "If you wish, you may send one to investigate, as you would know more about this." Shibi nodded and sent a Kakai to speak with Naruto's. "In the meantime, I would again like to thank you for the seal, as all members now wear it, and it's placed after the birth of all new members before they receive their hives." He spoke calmly, though he would admit to be intrigued by this development and wished the boy had come sooner. But perhaps they had to evolve to accommodate the chakra of the demon. It was a few moments before the Kakai came out and flew back into one of the many holes on Shibi, whom, like his son, seemed to be listening to voices that no one else could hear. "Well, it is just as you said, though there is more to it." He paused and turned in his chair to search for a scroll. Finding it, he pulled it from the shelf, opening it up. "Part of the issue is we never placed the jutsu on you for them to fully bond, but they seem to be doing that on their own. Yet I will work this to speed them along, as your hive should be nearly 30 times this size by now." Naruto nodded, as his go-ahead. Shibi then flashed through seals and placed his white glowing hand on Naruto. The surge of chakra washed over him, seeming to sink into his body. The Kakai reacted and started to move around rapidly. As the light faded, they too settled down. There, that jutsu works to create a haven inside your body for them to nest without the true strength of your chakra weighing on them. Though I am curious as to what they look like after so long. Naruto thought on that, and felt one slip out of his arm to his hand. This was the first time he had seen them since they sunk into his body. They were a deep purple color. This one seemed to stretch his wings before he fluttered around a bit, then flew off to the man's desk. Shibi pulled out a magnifying glass and started looking over the details of the Kakai. The carapace coloring was obvious from so many forced generations of breeding near the chakra. Advanced pincers and what appeared to be a poison sac were visible. This appears to be a guard, though it's different than the hive you were given. They have adapted to your chakra, but now they have a stable place to build their hive within you now. The Kakai flew back into the boy's arm. "Is there anything else I should be aware of now that my foolishness has been corrected?" True, Naruto realized he should have seen them after he tried to bond them, but maybe he was prideful and didn't want help. Though now he could feel the pull on his chakra adding to them, and hoped they wouldn't take much, seeing as it was denser than normal. But then they had been living his chakra for 2 years, growing to live off of it. By the look they were feeding of his QB mixed chakra, if the slightly more demonic build and coloring were an indication. Shibi saw the look that filtered across the boy's face. "For now, do not use them until they let you know they are strong enough to be used." Shibi thought over this. "I would say another year, since I am sure their breeding rate is accelerated. As well as they have adapted and evolved to live without the jutsu, they are far different from our own breeds. Though if you would give us a starter hive to study once yours has rebuilt, we would appreciate it." Naruto nodded. He wouldn't screw up like this again. They spoke more over the Kakai and what Naruto could expect over the next several months as his colony grew in size and adjusted to the jutsu and his chakra, as well as other things and investments Naruto wanted to make with the money he was earning from his stipend, mission, and owning the complex he lives in. // jump ahead to graduation / The months of boredom flew by for the young blonde, yet he still managed to keep up on his own, studying and work. His grades were worse than anyone's, and effectively placed him dead last of his class once more. Yet today would be the practical end of his mission, and pretending to be stupid or just failing his classes. He had just been called into the exam room and performed 2 of the 3 required jutsu, a hinge, and the substitution. Now it was time for the part that he always failed thanks to someone using a hinge on his clones. Though he believed it was Mizuki, today would prove everything. Now Naruto, if you fail this test again, you will never be able to be a ninja, Irika stated, with a tinge of worry for the boy who seemed to strive so hard for the role. Slowly going through the hand seals, he summoned several regular Bunshin. He knew they were fine. Yet once the smoke cleared, there were several half-dead-looking clones either laying or floating around the room. Irukawa shook his head sadly. "I'm sorry, Naruto, but you fail." Mizuki interrupted. "Come on, Irika, cut the kid some slack." "No, it's the rules, I won't bend them. I'm sorry." Naruto shook his head and walked out of the room, taking his seat near Shino and his friends. He just looked down at Shiruba and gave him a wink. It would all soon be over. But for now, Irika walked out and gave some announcements about meeting back here in 2 days for team placement for those that passed. And for those that didn't, good luck in whatever career they chose, or he would see them next year. Naruto and Shiruba walked outside and mingled around the training field, acting depressed over the fact that he didn't make it again. Though inwardly he hoped that this would end his ruse of being a failure, though almost 4 years of the stigma would be a bitch to wear off. When he spotted Mizuki looking right at him, "I'm sorry you couldn't pass the normal way," the instructor said. Naruto tilted his head. "What do you mean normal way? Is there another one?" Mizuki hid his smile. "Yeah, but it's not as easy as these tests. I don't know if you will be able to pass it. I can do anything. Come on, Mizuki-sensei, let me at least try." He gave a small pout. Even Shiruba had whined a little. "I got the brat now." "Well, this is what you have to do. //Hokage's office //. And I am supposed to bring the forbidden scroll to the clearing tonight by 9. Naruto finished retelling Mizuki's secondary exam. "I would need the scroll to make it convincing, though I am sure with his superiority complex to me, I would be able to take him with Shiruba." The Hokage pondered over this, and the reports on the 2 instructors, and had to agree that Mizuki was definitely the traitor. As for his reasons to want the forbidden scroll, it was more than likely to take it out of the village and to someone else that he could not allow, but letting Naruto take the scroll as bait was the only true way to do so. "Very well, I will organize to have the scroll in my office around 7, though I will organize a small group of AMBU 20 minutes after you have left with the scroll." He sighed. "That should give you enough time to set up and study the scroll and potentially catch Mizuki off guard. Though if he is not alone, I do not want you to engage. Is that clear?" Naruto nodded that he understood. As right now this was the Hokage and not Gigi, it was a strange duality between them, leader and soldier at times, at others grandfather and grandson. "Yes, Hokage-sama." // Shortly after 7 // Naruto and Shiruba bounded out of the Hokage's office and took off through the streets, both sending 3 clones to run off in other places as they headed towards the clearing, which they landed in a short 20 minutes later, just as the AMB would be summoned, giving them a fair window of time. He pulled the large scroll off of his back and opened it, passing up the Kage Bunshin and that chakra threads. No, this time he was going to see what else could be useful that wouldn't be illegal to use too often. There were a few jutsu and seals, but none of them held promise until he got halfway through the scroll. 2 jutsu seemed to stick out. One was a bloodline copy jutsu. This one seemed to create a weak version of the victim's bloodline in the user, which Naruto could see the potential in that, as well as he doubted it would stay weak for long once the QB woke up again. The other was called the Chakra Shroud. Reading through its description, the jutsu basically creates a layer of chakra over your skin that constantly drains on your chakra. However, it deflects most weapon attacks and would reduce a fair bit of damage from jutsu. Naruto could see why that could be an issue for most people, but for him chakra was readily available should he be forced into pulling on the QBs. Though given his bloodline, the expenditure was less since his chakra was naturally denser because of it. He took the time to commit the seals for both of those jutsu to memory, though he didn't know of any bloodlines that he would really want to copy to himself. Checking the time, he had a few minutes before Mizuki would arrive, so he created several clones and had them hide just outside the clearing. Shiruba, get up in the tree and stay safe. The kid soon jumped and ran up the tree to perch and wait for the perfect moment. Well, in his mind, the perfect moment. With Kitsune, you never really know what they are thinking and have planned, which that is something Naruto did as well. Within a few moments, Mizuki appeared. "Well, it seems like you did it. Now hand over the scroll and we can give you your promotion." Naruto looked at him with a funny grin on his face. "You came alone? Foolishness. Hiragikure no jutsu." He flew through seals, causing a thick fog to flood the clearing and much further out as well, picking up and placing the scroll on his back securely. "By order of the Hokage, you are under arrest for treason." Mizuki looked around and couldn't see anything. How did the brat do this? It must be in that scroll. You think a little fog will save you from me? Naruto's voice came from all directions. Not really, but it's enough that I can get you. His clones from earlier lunged out, striking at Mizuki from all angles with the Uzukan fists, pulsing chakra into the man's pathways, disrupting and rupturing several of them. We don't need to see you. We can hear you and smell you. From above, Mizuki heard a different voice. Right, and Kitsune shock tackle. The sound of electricity crackled through the mist before it collided with Mizuki, surging through the man's body, causing him to scream as the moisture in the air only served to dampen him and increase the power from the right on attack, soon to be followed by a silent thud of an unconscious man. Dismissing the misjutsu, he quickly tied the man up and ensured his own headband was tied snugly around his bicep and put the collar with the leaf plate on Shiruba. Then he tied up the unconscious traitor, before hefting him over his shoulder and giving the Kitsune the forbidden scroll. They took off for the tower. /Hokage's office /. Naruto and Shiruba jumped through the window and soundly tossed Mizuki to the floor near the old man's desk. Got him. Alive. Naruto looked to Shiruba, who quickly trotted over and let the Hokage take the scroll back. Would you like the full report or just the last few hours? The Hokage looked at the Chunin that was knocked out and tied up laying in front of his desk. Then back to the young boy who had done all of this, with the help of his Kitsune. No, Naruto, that will be fine. Given the severity of what may have happened with the scroll, I have observed the entire encounter through my crystal. He waved his hand to indicate the small orb that sat on his desk. I will have the traitor sent to Ibiki for questioning. Now though, I want to know what jutsu you managed to pick up from the scroll, as I saw you use Kagebun Shin. I can assume that you already knew of that skill. Naruto nodded. I had time to also learn the chakra thread. Not lying, but stretching the time that I learned that one in. I also memorized the signs for the chakra shroud, which I believe I could use efficiently for periods of time. The Hokage didn't detect any lies from the boy, and given the time, those two skills would be the least of his troubles if he managed to get any other skills from the scroll. Those two will not be difficult for you, but I would suggest you keep the shrouds used to a minimum. The thread, given your bloodline, may end up more of a weapon than just a skill. Naruto had come to realize that as well, but didn't show a voice that he could do so. I see, I will look into that. Now, is there anything else, Hokage-sama? Sarutobi looked at the boy. Yes, unfortunately there is. Hatake Kakashi has requested you specifically for his team. However, since he is the only user of a Sharingan in the village, he will also have Sasuke. He watched Naruto twitch at the young Uchiha's name. I request my actual scores from your and Jiraiya's exam be the scores I am to qualify with for team placement. Naruto said, it was truly the only way to avoid being stuck on the team of an Uchiha's team. Those results should place me as the #1 student and remove any chance of placing me on his team, because that would be an unfair advantage to have the two highest ranked genin together. The Hokage smiled slightly, though he didn't know how he was going to tell Kakashi. Well, with you being the rookie of the year for years in a row, that would more than likely make your team yourself, Kiba, and Sakura. But I don't see you keeping her alive. The Hokage said, I will not break up Asuma's team, which is the Ino-Shikacho combination, but I can place you on Kurenai's team. Since you are similar to the Inuzuka with Shiruba, it won't disrupt her dynamic, and we will place Kiba with Kakashi. He muttered more to himself, so that would give you Shino and Hinata as your team. Naruto thought it over and felt slightly sorry for Kiba, though he took to the rivalry with Sasuke. He didn't really know Kiba all that well, but he was slightly worse than he and Kuraba were the first 2 years. I think that will work out better. The rivalry from Kiba to the Uchiha will drive him to suicide, he hoped. Well, that's settled. I will inform the Jounin of their teams tomorrow. And here's your pay and bonus for completion of the mission. The bonus was for bringing him in alive to question. Sarutobi handed over the envelope with quite a bit of money in it. Now I will be placing this mission in your file, though not the length of time it lasted. He smiled as Naruto looked up from his pay and smiled back. Having a solo C-rank mission as a genin is a tremendous start. Oh, before I leave, Gigi, how come you don't use Kagebunshin to do your paperwork? He laughed as he and Shiruba jumped out the window. The relief of being done with acting and being treated as if he were stupid and not having to be stuck with the Uchiha washed over him, and he decided that no training tonight to celebrate. /Jounin meeting. Next day /. Sarutobi sat at his desk as he looked over the group of Jounin, Asuma, Kurenai, Hayate, and surprisingly Kakashi was on time. Though that may have been because he told him 9 a.m. and everyone else 11 a.m. But who cared, they were all there. As you know, you four will be taking on teams this year. Though with recent events I have had to adjust your teams with the release of some previously classified information. He enjoyed building up the suspense, coughing to clear his throat. With this information, Kakashi, I have to deny your request for Naruto Uzumaki. He passed out the correct student file for the Jounin to look over, since he, Jiraiya, and Ibiki all had a hand in testing the boy's skills. As you can all see, he is the Rookie of the Year. As such, I cannot stack the teams. Kakashi, along with the other Jounin, looked over the boy's scores and true ability levels. Hokage-sama, you can't be serious. There's no way he could. Kakashi, Naruto as of last night completed a C-rank solo mission to track down and capture a Chunin who had stolen the Forbidden Scroll. I think my judgment along with Jiraiya and Ibiki's on the boy's skills should be more valuable than that of a Chunin instructor. The Hokage stated with a bit of killing intent leaking. The rest of the Jounin nodded, though Kakashi didn't look so happy about it. Would I have gotten him if he were the dead last? No, he requested several years ago to never be teamed with a Sharingan or an Uchiha. The Hokage said sadly. He can remember most of the attacks against him when he was younger, being fire jutsu and the Sharingan being visible far too often. It's better if they aren't teamed, as he would do nothing to help Sasuke and would, given the chance, just let him die. He remembered hearing Naruto mutter his thoughts on the Uchiha a few times. The only good Uchiha is a dead one or Itachi, I believe, were his exact words. I can't fault the boy for his sentiments, but given Sasuke's personality and desire to kill Itachi, I think we all know which side Naruto would take, given Itachi was Naruto's primary rescuer from most of the attacks on him as a child. The gathered Jounin hid their reactions to the fact that Naruto would gladly let the Uchiha die, then help him, but the small story that the Hokage gave them they could understand. If that was the worst thing about Naruto, they could handle that. Kurenai spoke up. So then what will the teams be? Well, Team 7 will be Kiba Inuzuka, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha with Kakashi. He handed him the stats on his team. Team 8 will be Shino Aburame, Hinata Hyuga, and Naruto Uzumaki under Kurenai, handing her the team adjustment stats as well. 10 will be the new Ino Shikacho combination under Asuma, and 11 will be with Hayate. And there was no changes to your selection. He pulled out his pipe and lit it, taking a few drags. You are all dismissed. Team pickup will be tomorrow at noon. They all filed out with the exception of Kakashi. Hokage-sama, please reconsider. Sarutobi looked into the one eye of the man. Kakashi, Naruto would rather resign being a ninja than being placed with an Uchiha, and he wouldn't respect you because of that eye. That, and I know of the council's orders for you to focus only on Sasuke. Kiba will have his clan to fall back on. Sakura will worship and do whatever Sasuke wants, just as the council had her trained. I will not put Naruto on your team for the fear of him quitting, killing him, or going rogue. Surely the boy couldn't be capable of killing, yet he would hesitate. Not with Sasuke, he wouldn't. He doesn't see him as human, just trash that needs to be taken out. The only reason he hasn't yet is because I promised him that he wouldn't be teamed with him. That's the end of it, and please drop it. It's what he wants, Sarutobi pleaded with his eyes to the man. // council chamber / The council elders and Danzo were seated in the darkly lit room looking over the Hokage's listed arrangement for the new teams. They were frowning. Their plans to keep the demon under their thumb were going astray. Hiruzen is becoming a problem with that boy, treating him as if he were human. Danzo finally spoke, breaking the tense silence. He should have been turned into the weapon he is meant to be. Yet he keeps saying that it's not what the fourth would have wanted. I want to know why. The other two elders looked to each other. It wasn't known to any but them and Jiraiya who the boy truly was. Well, not even the Hokage and the Toad Sannin were aware that they knew. Danzo, though we agree with you that the boy should not have been allowed to become what he has, it is best that you do not push this, or it could be far worse for us in the village. Hamura warned, speaking up to quell the war dog. Why? Why should I not force that boy to his knees and to train him into a weapon for our village? He may be old, but games of subversion and deceit were tools as natural to him as breathing. The female elder sighed. It's because of who his parents were. Should that become known to him, or to any others, it could lead to things that our village could not hold against. Kohara sighed. For now, his unwavering loyalty to this village and the Hokage is enough. As ninja, we all have secrets, and some are enough to destroy anyone with but a word of them, Danzo. The veiled threat in her words was not unnoticed. I see. Danzo considered the weight of them, knowing that should he lose their support, they would save their withered hides and spill everything to Hiruzen and the rest of the council on him. That is it may, we do not fully understand the seal that Minato used on the boy. It's unlike any other Jinkirichi creation seal we have ever seen. It very well may have completely locked the presence and power of the demon away. Hamura said, in an attempt to sway Danzo away from any further thought. Should the seal be broken, or the boy killed, the demon will be as well. That is all we have been able to decipher of it. I for one do not wish to risk the slimmest chance of that beast coming back to finish what it had started. The wrinkled old hand grabbed the list. Though we will alter this listing, and with the three of us we can overrule this much without more than just a wavering suspicion. Koharu caught on to what her old teammate was going after. Yes, that is a good reasoning. We cannot waste time by letting the Uchiha be on a team. Apprentice him to Kakashi. He's failed every team, and this would allow him to have a more liberal schedule. The spark caught as she noticed Danzo redirect himself along this path. The civilian girl we can brush away maybe into a medic program. Her skills are pathetic, but she learns well. Hamura said, carrying on their plan, we would have to place the Inuzuka back with Kurenai, leaving the boy with no team. But what do we do with the boy? Oh, he would be without a team, and I am sure should someone offer he would take up the chance. Koharu finished. The wheels turning in Danzo's head were plainly seen by the other two in the room. Better yet, set the teams as they were originally, let Kakashi have the Uchiha, the girl and the boy. Danzo spoke all too happily. The records show the girl will do anything if it will help Sasuke. Kakashi is still going to focus on the Uchiha from our orders and out of some sense he owes to his fallen teammate. He worked out the list, placing the teams as they should have been. The demon boy will of course feel even more shafted and discouraged as well as angry. He has shown a strong dislike of the Uchihas. It will make him easier to peel away from them, rather making him more grateful for one who would show him time. /Hokage's office /. The elderly Hokage sat at his desk fuming, his killing intent spiking, and all those near that room felt as if they should die. He had been spying on the elders through his crystal orb. What they were doing was, sad to say, within the legal loopholes to keep the Hokage in check. Yet their reasons were far worse than any other. He signaled an Anbu, "Get me Naruto." Now, the man vanished. The other remaining guards were feeling the brunt of his fury as he sat there waiting. It wasn't long before Naruto and Shiruba appeared in a swirl of leaves, instantly stilling as the weight of the man-killing intent pressed on them. Gigi. What gives? The Hokage snapped out of his thoughts, reining in his desire to destroy the elders, his rival and his two former teammates. Sit. The two did as ordered. The elders have seen fit to overrule my selection and placed you back on the team with Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura. As he finished his sentence, the temperature of the room dropped several degrees. I know I promised this wouldn't happen and I have failed you. Naruto was furious, his chakra visibly pooling from him, as his two affinities caused the room to start to freeze. Fine. If it is their will to see the village lose its precious eye. His voice as cold as the air. I'm calling in that favor Gigi. I want to know who my parents were. I want access to the Nidame's Jutsu scrolls, as I share his affinity and I have almost completed the raw manipulation of it. The Hokage had worried it would be a violent explosion of emotions. He wasn't prepared for the cold, seething hatred that poured from Naruto. Even his requests weren't outrageous or truly outlandish. I will get you the scrolls. A true Swate Unmaster would be beneficial. But as for your parents' eye, Naruto shot his full glare at the Hokage, sensing he wouldn't comply. You owe me that much, and this village owes me more for their treatment. It's this or I leave, he stated firmly. As an 11-year-old, it shouldn't have carried the weight it did. But with the boy's skills, prisoner, and Kami knew what else he was hiding, the Hokage couldn't find it in himself to let the boy leave. I wanted you to be older to understand this, but it seems you have left me little room. He sighed and moved over to the picture of the fourth. Pulling it aside, he opened the safe behind it and pulled 3 scrolls. Your parents wrote you these before their death. Your father knew he was going to die, and your mother. She was always cautious. He handed Naruto 2 of the scrolls, which the boy ripped open to read them. Naruto, if you are reading this, then you, father, and I have died. You have become Chunin, or found some means of getting and or forcing Hiruzen into letting you read this. My name is Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze. As to my knowledge, you and I are the sole survivors of our clan from Yuzu, which was destroyed by the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I am, or was its host after our Uzukage sealed the demon inside me. I pray that you never meet this beast or have a similar fate to mine. I leave you with my love, and 3 jutsu 2 are my most feared, and the last will allow you to enter and leave Yuzu should you choose to venture there. No, I will always love you and be proud of you, my son. Kushina, opening the next one at a much more sedated pace. Narukuin, I hope you read your mother's first. If you are anything like here, which I hope you are, and aren't, you are probably a Chunin, or you found a way to squeeze this out of the old man. Old man, I'm sorry. Anyways, yes, I am Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage. I'm about to perform the sealing that, should all go well, will leave you with the Kyuubi inside you. I hope the village has treated you as the hero I and your mother, Kami, rest her soul, want you to be seen as. If this didn't happen, be sure to give them hell for it. Just take it easy on the old man. If you aren't living with your godfather, be sure to remind Jiraiya of his promise to me, and especially your mother. Now, I leave you everything I owned. The house, property, and the money. I also give you a family secret. Since I'm already dead, I can't die again. At least I know it won't happen soon. The Namikaze aren't really our clan. You are an Uzumaki and the last descendant of Tobirama Senju. Namikaze was the name of the civilian his daughter married. I would be his great-grandson, making you his great-great-grandson, and should Tsunade still be alive, you have family. Don't be angry if no one told you. It was passed down through our family. There's a test to prove it. If you're in the Hokage's office, which you should be, then find the blood seal on the back of the Nidame's picture. Just smear your blood on it. The rest will be revealed there. Now, as current Hokage, should one Naruto Uzumaki not be of the rank of Chunin, but manage to obtain these scrolls from the Hokage, then I promote him to the rank of Tokubetsu Chunin, Minato Namikaze, 4th Hokage. The small chibi holding the victory sign broke any serious tone the blonde had been feeling as he started to laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh, more of a psychotic near-breakdown laugh. Setting the scrolls down, he looked at Hiruzen and smiled crookedly before walking straight to the picture of his supposed ancestor and ripped it off the wall. Naruto, what are you doing? Relax. I'm following my father's orders. Flipping it over to reveal a giant seal, he bit his thumb and smeared it with the fresh blood. For a moment, nothing happened until the seal started glowing, revealing a family tree. The full list of the Senju clan, which caused the Hokage to come over and peer at it, his eyes widening, seeing Tsunade and Naruto's names as the only living. Though Naruto's name was listed as Naruto Senju Uzumaki. Well, looks like I'm related to 3 out of 4 Hokages. Turning to the old man, Gigi. I want this announced. Tomorrow before teams. I am the Nidame's heir. Hiruzen couldn't believe it, but it made so much sense as he looked between the boy and the 2 pictures of the Hokages that he could see. Even Tsunade was blonde and had the same fiery personality at times. They will demand proof, but with this, and a few blood tests that they will demand, it will be done. He placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder, his true age and the weight of his guilt pushing down on him. Not only had he failed Minato, but he had let his sensei's family suffer further. Next day, On the balcony overlooking the village stood Naruto and Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd and again Hokage. People of Konoha, last night fate seemed to be twisting in the winds and shone down upon our village and shed light on the fate of a young man. He motioned for Naruto to come stand next to him. This light brought to my attention his lineage. Orphaned by the attack 11 years ago, the will of fire never left this young man. His lineage more than ever shows the words of our previous Hokages were very much the truth. I present to you Naruto Senju Uzumaki, twice great-grandson of Tobirama Senju and son of Minato Senju, Namikaze, our late 4th Hokage. The villagers stood in silence as the information filled their thoughts along with all the harsh treatments they had bestowed upon the boy. The council members that stood behind the Hokage were lost in thoughts. Many were evaluating his potential and where they could fix their mistakes of his treatment. The few others who had seen him for who he truly was were smiling in their own ways. For proof of this claim, I present the blood-sealed family tree of the Senju, showing where Minato, Tsunade, and Naruto were true descendants. Naruto would now like to speak. The blonde man-child walked forward. You have antagonized me, spit on me, beat me, shunned me, treated me like the garbage beneath your feet. I detest you. Don't think I won't remember what has happened, but if you treat me like a person, an equal, I will let the past remain where it is. He looked at several individuals in the crowd. Those of you who showed me compassion, friendship, family, respect, thank you so much. He smiled, seeing Hana and several Aburame looking at him. It seems fitting that today I join my first team as a ninja of this village, the sole heir to Tobirama Senju. I will have the distinct honor to be able to help the last Uchiha achieve his rightful place as my teammate. Most missed the true meaning of the boy's words. The elders, Hokage, and the boy's soon-to-be sensei, however, caught the undertone. The Hokage stepped forward, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder and giving him a grim smile before turning to the assembled villagers. With that said, I, as Hokage of Konohagakure and student of both the 1st and 2nd Hokages, the Senju brothers and founders of our village, recognize and support Naruto's claim. The Aburame, Inuzuka, Nara, Akamichi, and several other council members stood in support. Some didn't, but they didn't try and dispute it either. So be it. The Senju clan lives on, and so does the will of fire. The crowd cheered, for it's what a mass of people do. As a whole, the new was a great boost to them all, But once time passes, some may change and accept this. Others may ignore it, and then some may decide to wait and see. //academy team pickup //. The assembled Genin were waiting anxiously, having been here instead of at the gathering called by the Hokage. So they were unaware of the newfound information. Naruto soon walked in wearing his normal blue and black clothes. Though the Yuzu swirl was placed now on his shoulders, the back of the jacket sported the Senju clan symbol in black as well. Walking with Shiruba to his usual seat, he settled down with a Cheshire grin to wait out the team announcements. Eventually, Irika walked into the room with the sealed list of teams. He looked at all his now former students. Today is a sad day for me as I no longer will be your sensei. Though it is a bright day for you all as you now take on the steps of becoming a true shinobi of this village. He smiled as he opened the scroll. I will now read of the names. He went through a few teams of students that Naruto didn't bother to listen to. Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Ashino Aburame will be on teammate with Kurenai. Team 10 will be Shikamaru Nara, Chuji Akamichi, and Ino Yamanaka with Asuma. Team 7 will be Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, and Naruto Senju. He stopped, looking over the name again. Well, with Kakashi as your sensei. The room erupted in several different fashions. Some girls were lamenting not being on Sasuke's team. Others were discussing the fact that Naruto's last name was Senju, and not Uzumaki on this list, and others were shouting at the unfairness of other things. Enough. Meet your sensei here at one now dismissed. Naruto was still going over everything that had happened to him in the last day. The revelation of his family being more than it should have been. It didn't outweigh the fact that the Kyuubi was also held within his mother, meaning it was released somehow. He wanted to know who, how, and why, and once the Kyuubi woke up he would get his answers. After all, the overlays he placed on his seal worked two ways. It could either slow the process down on how much chakra he took and absorbed from the demon, or it could increase it faster than it should. His head ached as he felt his clones start to dispel, filling his mind with the information they were either reading or training. Needless to say, 300 clones were left to move him stuff, read scrolls, or train. / pickup time / Naruto didn't leave the academy as many others had. Instead, he chose to stay there and wait. Let the villagers take time to start spreading the news and correct their children on the behaviors that they themselves encouraged. He watched as Shiruba seemed to twitch every so often in his sleep. The two-tailed kitsune was resting as his own clones returned to him. It amazed him how it seemed he alone used the clones like this. But then who else had the source of chakra and the regenerative abilities to deal with the trauma to the brain? The others started to mill into the room, many of them giving him looks, most of which were confused about what happened. The others, mostly of clans, looked at him with understanding and a bit of concern. Though only one didn't change how they looked at him, and that would be Sasuke Uchiha. The boy just glared, to which Naruto just ignored. He had no reason to start the feud again, but he wouldn't hesitate to place the bastard in his true place, a grave, if given the correct set of opportunities. Other jounin came and collected their teams until only Team 7 remained. Our blonde looked at the clock, annoyed by the man's tardiness, though he had been warned about it. Naruto waited, ignoring Sakura. He wouldn't be holding back on who he was and what he knew any longer, and the first time someone copies his skills with an eye, they would lose it. Eventually, the man arrived, walking through the door. My first thoughts are I hate you. Meet me on the roof. The clone dispelled. Sasuke and Sakura took him through the door, while Naruto and Shiruba flickered to the roof to wait. /roof / Kakashi was shocked to see the blonde and fox appear there in a swirl of leaves. He's better than what I was told. But the revealing of his skills by the Hokage, and now the truth of Naruto's heritage, told him the boy was going to be the best with or without him. He sighed. Sensei, forgive me. After a few minutes, the two others showed up out of breath, taking seats on the ledge. Shooting glares at Naruto. Good. Now how about we get to know each other first, HM? Then on to the real test. Kakashi-sensei, why don't you go first? The Pinkette said. Well, I am Kakashi Hitaki. There are many things I like and even more I dislike, and my dream is that, he stated as he looked through a little orange book. The team just sat there. Sakura stared at him confused, Sasuke with disinterest, and Naruto, well, he wasn't even paying attention. Now your turn? Pinky, you first. She straightened up. I'm Sakura Heroine. I like. Looks at Sasuke. I dislike Naruto Baka, and my dream. Looks at Sasuke again and giggles. To which the reaming group sweat dropped. Kakashi looked between Naruto and Sasuke before he indicated Sasuke to go next. I'm Sasuke Uchiha. I don't have any likes. My dislikes are traitors to my clan, and my dream isn't a dream, it's an ambition to kill the one responsible for the death of my clan. Naruto didn't wait to be recognized and started on his own. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I am the heir to both clans. I like many things. I dislike those who don't work for their skills and simply copy or steal them for themselves. My dream well. I'll tell you when I fell you are worth my trust. He finished and Shiruba yipped next to him. Kakashi looked between his team. I'm not allowed to fail them, but Naruto will not work with Sasuke. Sasuke doesn't want to work with any of them and Sakura will only do what Sasuke says. He thought it over to himself, seeing what he had read and seen on his own was coming to the surface. The look Naruto gave him when he mentioned copying jutsu showed that the blonde knew about his eye and made his opinion known. All right, meet tomorrow at 6, training ground 7. Naruto stay for a minute. Taking the cue to leave, they did so. What do you want, Kakashi? I have things I need to do. Naruto spoke crisply as his tentative sensei stood before him. Kakashi ran a hand through his hair. Well, first off, I can't fail you because you aren't even really a genin. Second, I was on your father's team. He was my sensei. Third, you are probably aware that I am supposed to ignore you and train Sasuke. To which Naruto nodded to all of them. So, we can work this a few ways. He sighed. He hated not being able to have a teamwork team, but this was as good as he was going to have with fate against him. Naruto looked at him. Are you going to be late to everything? To which he already knew the answer. Don't even answer, I know you will. I'll send a reinforced shadow clone to training. I'll show up for missions. If you don't like it, then change. With that, Naruto and Shiruba flickered away from the building, leaving Kakashi to stand there, like he saw a ghost and missing something small and orange. 3 months later. Naruto looked around the training ground he had started in so many years ago. Well, kid, show me what you got. He looked at Shiruba with a smile. Hi. He took off running across the field aiming at a training post. Kitsune style. Herdo shock. His mouth opened, shooting a bullet of water with a strange glow to it. Slamming into the post, the instant smell of ozone filled the air as the water was quickly evaporated by the electric current. Good one. Wish I could merge my elements, though. He thought with a small quirk of his head that he shook off. Give me 6 shadow clones and try the prison field technique. The Kitsune looked down at his paws, Tusan. I can only make 4 clones. Frowning. Oh, he rubbed his chin before smiling. That's all right, I just keep forgetting about that. Walking over, he rubbed the silver fur between the ears. His ears twitched. Shino-san is coming. They both turned to see the younger boy appear down the road, walking straight for them. Naruto-san, my father wished for me to give you this scroll over Kakachu. As well, it contains the basic methods of controlling them. He pulled a scroll from his coat pocket, taking it and slipping it inside his own. I thought he said I shouldn't use them for a while yet. That is true. However, he feels that they should be sufficient enough to begin working with them in training. Pushing his glasses up, he also wanted to see if you've made contact with your hive's queen. Tilting his head to the side, I don't think I have. How do I? That is simple. Focus your thoughts onto me and I will receive them. A metallic-sounding voice filtered through his mind. Oh, well, that was easier than I thought. Is there anything you need? He questioned, silent. Not at this moment. We are ready for combat. As for my children, you have a new breed from the rest we have met. Take us to the elder. There are some from this cycle that are close to expiration. They will be given to learn from. Nodding mentally, it seems she wants me to visit your father again, to have him learn about the differences. Logical deduction. It seems your queen is highly intelligent. Stuffing his hands in his pocket, father isn't busy at the moment if you wish now. Come along, kid. Looking over his shoulder before turning back to Shino, that would probably be best. I would rather know just what they are capable of before I end up using them in battle. Aburame compound. The steady buzz of beetles filled the air as he was led into the study. Aburame-sama. He nodded his head to the man sitting behind his desk. The exchange of kikai was swift. Uzumaki-san. He stacked the papers on his desk out of the way. It seems to be the time then? Yes. My queen informed me that my hive is much different than the original and she expressed to have you examine them to determine the difference. Holding out his hand, 10 beetles slipped into his palm before flying to the desk. These are nearing the end of their cycle and do not need be returned. Shibi carefully collected them. If you would wait here for a moment, this shouldn't take too long to determine the differences with our records. Getting up, he walked out. When he wakes up, there will be even more voices in your head. Shiruba quipped with a smirk on his features, his blue eyes looking down at the Kitsune. Yes, and you're a talking Kitsune. I think I'm quite used to strange things happening. Sticking his tongue out. That's only because you made me able to talk. True. You're welcome. He winked with a smirk. Oh yeah, Shiruba. Are you thinking I'm replacing you? He noted the fox looked down. It's not going to happen. Getting up, he gave the Kitsune a hug and carried him back to his seat. The two sat there in comfortable silence for a while before Shibi returned. Two identical scrolls in hand. I will say that your hive is fascinating. Taking his seat at the desk. They are indeed a new species which we have decided to call Akuma Kakechu. It seems due to your unique chakra as well as your use of that seal along with foregoing the bonding jutsu for so long it allowed them to evolve faster. Nodding along. So what are the differences? Clearing his throat. They still devour chakra like the common variety, though they take more than we thought possible, and we believe this is due to your bloodline. Secondly, they have developed a poison that seems to affect the nervous system and motor skills. He sat the scrolls on the desk, sliding one to Naruto. Lastly, I have to ask, do you know what your affinity is? Yes, I have wind and water. Rubbing his chin. It seems that is an oversight from our clan. What is? Shifting his glasses. Because your hive was left to adapt to your chakra for a year, they attuned to your elemental affinities. A weakness to our techniques has always been fire. With the water chakra they seem to produce, they have developed a resistance, and with your wind chakra have become faster with flight and can extend the range of the scent-based ability. Taking in the information with a slight nod, his mind began funneling everything around and relaying it to the queen, who in turn agreed with him. As queens had ancestral memories imprinted upon them to better govern and direct their hives. Then that means you are going to be changing your own clan's bonding rites by letting the hive adapt for a year, and then performing the bonding jutsu at 4 after introducing the hive at 3. Along with the seal being placed at birth. The elder nodded. Yes. With these changes that you have allowed my clan to adapt, evolve, and truly become more than we have since the Aburame learned to bond with Kikai. Getting up, he walked to his window to look out of it. I doubt the changes will be as explicit as your own, but it will make them unique to each and increase the overall effectiveness of my clan. Smiling. Wow. I didn't think it would be that much. A faint smirk hidden by his coat. One change can have long-term ripples, causing more smaller changes. That scroll is a copy of some basic techniques to use with your hive that are taught to all children of this clan. In Izuka compound 2 weeks later. Naruto was sitting in the veterinary office while Hana looked over Shiruba, since he seemed to be acting strangely and having difficulties moving. A large scroll was sitting next to him, his handwriting visible on the casing. You wanted to see me, Naruto? Some spoke walking into the office. Getting up. Actually, I wanted to give you something. He hefted the large scroll towards her. Catching it, she raised a brow. This would be. Taking a deep breath. It's a variant taijutsu style that I came up with for using a companion. True, most of your Nikin are much larger than he is, but I figured it would work like the academy style. As a stepping stone, since this works off precision and speed. With the brow still raised, she rolled it open on the counter, looking it over with a critical eye. There are many similarities to our Beast Fong style. She hummed, looking through some of the specialized moves. It seems to take a lot of focus though, nodding. Yeah, after being in school with both Karaba and Kiba, along with spending time with Hana, I noticed your clan seems to have a short temper and the desire to jump right into a fight. He shrugged, not to sound rude, but that's not always the best, given as a genin we aren't developed fully, and neither are our companions. She made a slight fist before releasing it. True, and if they actually have to remain calm and focused, they lose a bit of the power from their attacks. But with this, they would be more maneuverable and aware of their surroundings more. A small smile crossed her feral features. Kid's given us another way to grow stronger. Walking over, she gave him a small hug before looking down at him. You are a rare type of person, Naruto. No matter who you are related to makes no difference, but you carry their spirit by doing this. He blushed slightly when Hana arrived without Shiruba. Mom. Some looked over and nodded. I'll leave you two alone. Taking the scroll and walking out. Naruto. Shiruba will be fine from what I can tell. Because of your bonding and his own massive chakra reserves for a Nikin, he's developing faster and reaching adulthood physically faster than his body is used to. Also, his balance is off because he's growing a third tail. So he's fine. Smiling. You'll just have to stay here for observation for a week until his tail is done and he gets his bearings again. She pulled a small scroll from her vest. Also, Kakashi-senpai dropped this off a while ago, saying it might come in handy. Tossing it to him. Catching it, he looked through it, a smile growing on his face. What is it? Chuckling. I think it's his way of trying to get on my good side. He looked up from it. It's instructions for making a summoning contract. She let out a light gasp. The Hatake clan were able to make them for their Nikin, though it changed them a bit from what ours are with their training and whatever it did to them in the process. As they were speaking, a large shadow came through the door, revealing a large one-eyed hound. Naruto-san. I think these 4 would be best left to your care. The hound spoke after sitting a basket down on the floor, pulling the cover off, revealing 4 fox kits looking less than a few weeks old. I found them on the outskirts of the forest. Their mother's scent was faded badly. Hannah and the blonde walked over. Her hands glowing green, she frowned. They haven't eaten in a week. Her brown eyes looked into bright blue. Fix them up and leave them with Sharuba. Just bill me. I'm going to prepare the seals that I gave to him. They should be strong enough once they're healthy. His face taking on a serious expression. I'll do it, and don't worry about the bill. I set them on the same pills I gave him. She placed her hand on his shoulder, collecting the basket. 1 month later. Naruto was sitting in his apartment, 3 sets of seals resting on the table along with an elaborate scroll, the ink just drying with a faint red tinge to it. Sharuba, the silver 3-tailed fox, walked out followed by the 4 kits. Yes, San. Did you finish bonding with them? Of course, but I'm not sure why you wanted me to. The kitsune titled his head. Just like you shared my chakra, which I used a portion of the QBIs, you shared it with them, making them kitsune bound under you. He motioned to the scroll. Since it's done, Ota-san, why need us? One of the kits stuttered out. This caused all of them to look at her. Naruto raised a brow. Yes, I won't need these seals. He whispered. It has to be how potent my chakra was, along with QBI strengthened by the seals that I gave them for their own chakra. He thought with a faint growing smirk, shaking his head. I'm glad I used the blood adoption seal, plus using their own blood to mix with the sealing ink. He got up and smiled, petting each of them. I made a summoning contract. Sharuba, you're going to be my boss summons, and the kids will learn from you. I'm not sure what all the changes will be, but it's ready you, and I just have to activate it, then I have to sign it. And summon you. The silver kitsune walked over, placing all 3 tails on the massive sealing array, with a nod. Naruto placed his hands on both sides as well. Both took on a glow of bright chakra as they pumped everything they had into the seal to compress it. The scroll began to glow with a golden fire as it shot out and struck all 5 of the kitsune, seeping into them as it created a seal around them on the ground, glowing in the same golden light. Naruto smiled before he felt his second reserve being tapped, the red chakra surging through him, filling the scroll with a flash, causing the golden fire to burst outward before it was sucked back into the scroll, leaving behind only Naruto, who blinked before passing out. As the summoning contract altered and shifted, burying the array into the weave of the scroll, and just the contract and details of the scroll behind, with space for his name and future names to be placed. The sensation of someone shaking him caused the blonde to wake up on the floor. Ugh. My head. Ma. What happened? Cracking open a single blue eye, he recognized his sensei. Why? You didn't send a clone today or yesterday? He shrugged. So I was worried. 2 days. He sat up only to grab his head. I never take that long. What? Kakashi helped him to the chair, his single eye catching the scroll still open. The same eye widened, seeing what it was, and couldn't help the low whistle. You made a summon scroll. Letting out a chuckle. That would explain it. Explain what? If I would have to guess, you compressed this with all of your chakra, didn't you? Remembering vaguely the rush of red chakra, he could only nod. I even tapped into my other reserve. Other reserve? He couldn't mean the QBI, could he? Shaking the thought from his mind. Well, you might want to sign it. Explaining what to do, as it was more like one of the big 3 contracts than his, but he knew how to do it. Naruto nodded, biting his left thumb. He wrote his full name and pressed his fingerprints next to it. So should we do this here? I have the perfect place. Placing a hand on the blondes should they vanished, appearing in a forest clearing. I could tell you used my directions, but you also added a bunch that I don't quite know, so it's always best because of the changes that may or may not have happened. Nodding, he bit his thumb again and flashed through the hand seals, summoning jutsu. Sharuba. His hand slamming into the ground, causing a golden seal to spread out before he rose into the air under a cloud of smoke. Once it cleared, it revealed a horse-sized silver kitsune with 3 tails twisting behind it. The Uzumaki spiral and golden fur on its forehead. Wow. Naruto, is that you on my back? The kitsune rumbled in a deeper voice. Sharuba. He spoke, flipping off the kitsune. Seeing his eyes were now a deep red, reflecting on his memory of the QBI from years ago. Yeah. Seems there already was a kitsune contract, though it was destroyed a long time ago. But why did you wait 3 months to summon me? The 2 humans had the same thought. 3 months. Shaking his head. It's only been 2 days. Wait, this is a time-space jutsu. If there was already a contract, then they must have a protected realm. It may interfere with time differently. He began to ramble. A tail flicked out, knocking him to the ground. Seriously. But anyway, when we got there, whatever happened caused me to be covered in red and golden chakra that connected me to all the other kitsune, making me the boss technically because of the new contract. But I'm on the lower end of the power scale. But the elders have agreed to put me through the training after seeing what happened to me. Here he gave the look, referring to the seals on him. How long is that going to take? Kakashi was curious. and was mentally taking this down to report to the Hokage. After all, it's not every day a true summoning contract is made. Well remade. Shirato-sama says if I prove as talented as my first teacher, I will be done in 2 years, though I will still be weaker than some of the others. The blonde nodded, while doing the math in his head. Well, if the time difference stays the same. Ma, I don't think it works that way. Turning to look at the silver-haired man. What do you mean? Well, Jiraiya-sama has the Toad contract, and their home has a time change like what Shiruba was explaining. Though it's not a constant, but it fluxes. An hour there could be a day here, or a day there could be months here, he explained. Sighing, the kitsune spoke. The elders and I will just reverse summon you when my training is complete. They want to meet you. His eyes traveled from Naruto's down to where the QBI seal rested. A sad smile on his face, Naruto nodded. I'm going to miss you, buddy. He wrapped his arms around Shiruba's neck. Me too, San. Me too. But look on the bright side. I'm a true summon now, so I'll just dispel if I get injured. Here the fox definitely smirked. But I'm going to make sure all the summons learn our fighting style, so you don't have to worry about that. Just take care of yourself, and I won't have to worry. But I need to get back. Wiping a tear from his eye. Sure thing. I'll just have to get stronger to make sure you don't slack off. He chuckled. Shiruba nodded before vanishing in a cloud of smoke again. Naruto, I would suggest. And I'm not telling you what to do here, but I would suggest waiting on using your summons until Shiruba completes his training. He spoke softly, nodding. Yeah, I guess you're right. And I guess I'll start coming to meetings and stuff as me. The elder Jounin I smiled. Good. It means we can try and take a C-ranked mission now. The blonde raised a brow. Why now? Shrugging, I wasn't going to let the team go on one until you felt ready to actually come yourself. I know you have the memories of everything, and Sasuke has started to change as well as Sakura. I know. But I will expect you to respect my wishes about the Sharingan when he awakens it. Not that most of my jutsu can be used by him, but anyone that I use I've actually worked my ass off for. Kakashi nodded. I can't make promises to not copy your jutsu, but it will never be intentional. The eye copies any jutsu it sees when activated. Sighing, what about sealess or one-handed seals? Shaking his head. If there's no seals, then it can't, or most of the Uchiha would have been able to use the Rasengan of the fourths. Shrugging, as for single-handed seals, only if they know how to use them, which Sasuke, and I don't, so it won't register to the eye. Nodding, good. Naruto. I owe you some explanations. He began talking about his time on Naruto's father's team and his own personal life. He spoke until the sun was setting and the rumbling of their stomachs was telling them food would no longer wait. The blonde had listened with a stoic expression at first, that slowly morphed into one of understanding, if not a bit of respect for the man and his own father. He choked. I think I understand, but if I lived in the past like that, I probably would be trying to kill half the villagers. But I will try and give Sasuke a chance, but I will not help him against Itachi and I, nor will I fight him. I owe him too much for what he's done for me to try and kill him. The Jounin smiled, though it wasn't a happy one, but a proud one. I think your parents would be proud of you for that. I know I am. And I won't hold it against you should we come to that. I guess that's the best I can get right now. See you tomorrow. Kakashi-sensei. He waved as he ran off through the trees. The next morning. The blonde arrived at the training ground. His clone had spent the last 4 months training with his team. His hands in the pocket of his trench, a faint smirk on his lips. His blue eyes looking over the two others. Sakura looked pathetically weak, and he felt disappointed mostly that she would be so. The Uchiha was smug, arrogant, and still a prick as he had been since his clan's cleansing. Pathetic. He spat on the ground as he felt the incoming Shunshin. Kakashi arrived in a flurry of leaves. Yo, you re-LA? Sakura started to scream only for Naruto's fist to slam down on top of her head. Shut up. He snarled. Unless you find a way to turn that banshee wail into an actual jutsu, keep your pathetic ass quiet. The faint buzz of his hive practically growled in the air. Turning to Kakashi mission, the Jounin sweat dropped. He's not killed them yet at least. Waving his hand, Ma, come on then. I think you're ready for a C rank. The team nodded, save Sakura who was busy holding her head in pain. As they followed Kakashi to the Hokage's tower, Naruto standing in the back, his eyes never leaving Sasuke's form. Entering the Hokage's office, Naruto smirked at the old man, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen twitched. The only time Naruto was formal was when he wanted something, which means this was actually Naruto, and the Uchiha was still breathing. Naruto-kun. Team 7. The blonde tossed the letter from his father onto the Hokage's desk. I think you may want to read that before Kakashi-sensei picks up a mission. Everyone looked between the two with a look of confusion. Taking the letter, the old Saratobi opened it, reading over it. with a sad smile and an eventual chuckle. I see. Far be it from me to override the decision of the Hokage. Ma, aren't you the Hokage? Kakashi asked. Of course, but there have been 3 others. He reached into his desk and pulled out a scroll unsealing an item from it. He tossed the flak jacket to Naruto. Congratulations, Naruto, on your promotion to rank of Tokubetsu Chunin. Slipping the flak jacket on under his trench coat. Thanks, Gigi. He smirked. Sasuke was fuming. Why's the dope get promoted? I'm an Uchiha and elite of this village. Kakashi and Hiruzen both now understood, while Hiruzen understood why Naruto had waited. Sneaky and underhanded. You are a Chunin, and I would remind you, Sasuke-kun, that Naruto is the son of the 4th Hokage and related to the 1st and 2nd as well. Should you be brandishing your titles around, he outclasses you in this village alone. Yet the Uzumaki title as his clan trumps yours once more, as he is also the descendant of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Uzukages. The man leaked a small touch of killing intent. The blonde simply smirked at the black-eyed boy. If memory serves, the Uchiha were always second to the Senju. It's only fair that you begin learning your place. Sasuke lunged, only to be caught by Kakashi, but not before something slashed through his cheeks. Everyone looked at the purple chakra that was outstretched from both of Naruto's hands in a whip-like fashion. Chakra lash, successful. The cables of pure chakra retreated back to his fingers, his blue eyes looking at the bleeding lines just below the boy's eyes. Looks like my aim is still off. Your eyes are still there. The room grew cold as the Hokage stood up, unleashing his full intent. Enough. He slammed his fist back on the desk. I didn't want to do this, but Team 7, you are disbanded. Sakura Haruno, your performance reviews since graduation leave me no choice but to remove you from the shinobi program. He snatched her headband from her neck. Sasuke Uchiha, your evaluations are even worse. Arrogance, inability to follow orders, work with others, and a strong proclamation of vengeances and inability to control your emotions. I'm placing you into a rehabilitation program, pending a clean psychological evaluation. He snapped his fingers, 2 appearing, grabbing the boy and vanishing. Naruto mentally checked his today's to-do list off. Myself, Hokage-sama? The aged man sighed. Your skills to this point are too valuable to lose. Also, you've stated plainly and calmly your position many times over the years. But we have no teams with openings. Hokage-sama. Kakashi cleared his throat. Kakashi Hitaki formally request to apprentice Uzumaki Naruto. The 2 remaining people in the room looked at him, the Hokage picking up his pipe. Under what pretense? Given I am the sole surviving member of Minato Namake's team, I have intimate knowledge of the man's jutsu and fighting styles that I could pass down. As well, Naruto has shown to have skills that I could lend my knowledge towards. The blonde didn't smile at this, but given last night's heartfelt conversation, it didn't surprise him that it stirred the man's resolve to do what was right after all these years. I'll accept under the condition that you let me give you a seal to control your Sharingan. Hiruzen turned to look at the blonde. You were planning on placing it on Sasuke, weren't you? Nodding, it requires a hand seal to activate, letting the chakra enter the eye enough to form the Sharingan. However, it's a seal that Kakashi-sensei told me that the Sharingan is unable to copy. He smirked, built with a kill switch that locks away the eye forever if they try to overpower it with chakra or remove it without my blood and chakra. The village leader hung his head. The boy is serious, and after seeing his seals, I don't doubt the validity of it. Sighing, Kakashi, do you accept this stipulation? The Jounin's features were stern. Yes. It drains chakra constantly from my system, and if I can learn the seal, it would prove beneficial in many ways. The Hokage nodded, as Naruto pulled out a brush and ink. I can do it now, pulling his headband up, revealing the eye with scaring around the edges. Let's do this. Quickly, Naruto began working on a seal that at first seemed to cover the entire right side of the man's face. Looking over his work, he put his fingers on the edge of the seal, elemental seal, controlling force. He pushed his chakra into the array for it to glow and shrink, leaving a spiral pattern around the man's now black eye. Kakashi blinked as he felt his chakra settle down and the drain vanish. It worked. Of course it did. He held up his one hand in a strange seal. One-handed dragon seal, and to seal or unseal the eye takes about as much chakra as a substitution. Hiruzen watched Kakashi mimic the seal and begin rapidly trying to unseal his eye. The man was a genius, and it showed after 20 minutes when his eye flared red as the Sharingan appeared. The spiral pattern around it glowing red as well. Nodding to himself, he resealed his eye, both the seal and eye returning to their previous black color. The cry of a hawk caught all their attention as it flew through the window, dropping a scroll on the desk. The Hokage snatched it up and read it quickly. Kakashi, Naruto, Team 26 is requesting backup on their mission. It seems they encountered Zabuza Momochi on a C-rank mission to wave. Naruto perked up. That's Kuraba's team. He looked at Kakashi, turning to look at Naruto. Go and meet me at the south gate in 20 minutes. He watched Naruto vanish. Looking back to the Hokage, what details can you give me? 20 minutes later. The two were walking out of the gate. Now, it's going to take us a day to get there if we run full out. According to the message, they have about a week before they expect him to attack again after his injuries. Jumping up to the trees, they began moving quicker. So we should take 2 days. Keep our strength up since I'm guessing they're in bad shape anyway. Nodding, Shiro is suffering chakra exhaustion and a few minor injuries. Your Inuzuka friend has a fractured leg. The other two are cut up pretty bad. The two became blurs as they sped along towards wave/bridge builder's house/ The two landed with a crouch. Naruto instantly spotted the large white and tan dog standing by the house. Sumeru, where's that flea bag you keep for a companion? He barked at the dog. Floppy ears perked up. Naruto-san. He walked over sniffing. Kuraba is resting. Broke his leg against a tree. Kakashi gasped. There was no way the dog should be able to talk yet. Looking over his shoulder at his teacher, he shook his head. Turning back to the hound. Well, me and Kakashi are here to help out, but it'll take some time for Kuraba's leg to heal up. The dog escorted them to the house. I'll keep watch, the others aren't feeling well yet. Naruto shook his head. You need your rest too. I've got it for now. He lifted his arms as 2 columns of Kikai spread out over the property. You've done good, boy, here. He reached into this pocket and pulled out one of the Inuzuka treats for their companions. Sumeru snatched it up and made a circle before laying on the porch. Thanks, Naruto-san. You're a worthy beta. Naruto nodded, knowing what he meant. Shiruba isn't here, so I will definitely work with you when the time comes, Sumeru. The door opened, revealing a fairly attractive woman with shoulder-length brown hair. You must be the others that Shiro-san sent for? Kakashi stepped up. Yes, I'm Kakashi Hitaki, and this is my apprentice Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto nodded when he was mentioned, knowing he still didn't really trust the man given his past, but still it was a man who was willing to try and change. Well, come in. Breakfast is almost ready, and the others should be getting up soon. She moved aside, letting them come inside. Looking around, Naruto saw it was rather plain, but had a touch of that comfort, making it a home. Sensei, I'm going to check on the others. Nodding. Just don't do anything outside of what you can handle. The blonde found the two that were the least banged up and nodded, his hand flaring green. After a moment's concentration, he checked them over and healed the few cuts and bruises they had. Hey, breakfast is ready, and Kakashi-sensei wants you to fill him in on what you know. Waking them up as he left to find Kuraba, shaking his head when he saw they simply wrapped his leg. Better than nothing. Moving it carefully, he scanned it over before pulling a splint from his kit and setting the leg. The muffled scream from his friend caused him to wince. Sorry, Kira, but it needed set. He used a numbing jutsu on the area. The Inuzuka rubbed the tears from his eyes. Naruto, figures they would send you. Where's that excuse for a Niken of yours? He joked, trying to focus off the pain. Blue eyes shut for a moment. He's getting special training. I made a summoning contract for him and a few kits that Koromara found. He chuckled dryly. Come to find out, there used to be a Kitsune contract that got destroyed. And me making a new one pulled on the queue. REA awakening the whole of the old contract. So, Shiruba is being trained to be the new boss because my contract overrode the destroyed one. A rough hand reached out and patted his friend on the shoulder. At least he's not really gone. Right. He looked back to the leg. I'm not good enough to heal that leg, but it's set, and I'll keep the numbing jutsu on it to kill some of the pain. He gave his friend a skewed look. Also, it seems Sumeru thinks I'm your beta. If the tan boy wasn't in pain, he was surely blushing. Well, the blonde smirked. I'm flattered, Kira. He was going to continue speaking when Kuraba grabbed him and pulled him into a light kiss. Don't say anything else, please. The brown eyes pleaded. The blonde was blushing slightly. I'll leave it for now, but when we get back to the village, we're going to talk about this, all right? Getting a nod from his friend, he stood up. I need to go check in your sensei. Walking out of the door, he shut it and leaned against it. What just happened? He hung his head, his bangs covering his eyes that showed his true confusion. He's my first friend. My best friend, really. But can I haven't ever thought. He shook his head, pushing the thoughts away as he walked towards the last one. Pushing the door open, he found the man propped up reading a familiar orange book. They sent Team 7? Shiro spoke from his bed, shaking his head. There is no Team 7. I'm Kakashi's apprentice, so it's just the two of us. He walked over, his hands glowing green, checking the man over. General stress on your coils. The rest of your injuries are healing nicely. He fiddled through his kit, pulling out a small jar. No more than 3 of these a day. They'll stimulate chakra production and on a downside will make you pretty hungry. He sat them on the table. I fixed everyone what I could. Kuraba needs to stay off his leg for at least 2 weeks. Since I can't heal a bone, and Kakashi is wanting more details than your message had. 3 days later. Shiro's team and Naruto were standing in a clearing while Kakashi looked them over. All right. Shiro said that you were working on your elemental composition. Getting a nod from the two. If you can master the leaf exercise in the next 2 days, I will teach you one jutsu of C rank for your element. Naruto looked at them. For water, try feeling the water in the leaf and tuning your chakra to that feeling and let it draw the water from the air. And fire. Since water is your opposite, turn your chakra against the water in the leaf until it's evenly matched, then push till the water is gone. Kakashi nodded. That's the simplest way to figure this out and our best bet to get you 2 stronger. What about Kurabaha? He's not going to learn this. The girl, by the look of her, was a civilian clan. Chuckling, Kuraba already knows how to do his natural element. He's learned his second one with you guys. Bullshit. The other teammate called. That idiot couldn't be learning a second one. Instantly, Naruto was in front of the boy, his hand around his throat. Kuraba is not an idiot. I should know. I worked with him on his air manipulation when I found out that we had the same element. Naruto. Kakashi's voice echoed. The blonde nodded and released the boy before vanishing and appearing where he was standing previously. Sorry, sensei. No problem. He's your friend after all. He chuckled. You two get to it, and if you can still stand by dinner, you weren't trying hard enough. He turned and walked towards the water. Naruto. You and I are going to spar. You don't use seals, and I won't use my Sharingan. I want to get a true feel of your level without your companion. The faint twitch was the only sign he was irked by the statement. Well, if I had known that would have happened, I would have sure as hell not made that contract. He muttered as he walked out onto the water. You sure you want to do this? I mean, water is my second affinity. Purple chakra strings formed from his fingertips and coiled on the surface of the water. You may have trained hard on your own. You may have some advantages that others don't have because of your knowledge, but that doesn't make much of a difference when it compares to an experienced ninja. The man nodded, putting his book away securely. I would watch the arrogance in your skills. An arrogant ninja often ends up a dead ninja. At some unspoken signal, the two vanished, the sounds of the fight echoing from the water as it rippled outward and seemed to move violent on its own. Occasional pauses in their fight revealed them in different positions before they moved away again. These scenes and sounds continued for 2 hours before a mop of blonde hair became visible as it was flying through the air and smack into a tree. Kakashi nodded. Not bad. He stopped as the blonde burst into a bunch of beetles. You're in the grip of my tides. Naruto spoke as the water began to glow with chakra light. Uzumaki, wave of 1,000 crashes. His body flew across the surface as he began to circle Kakashi faster and faster, creating a vortex of water that was glowing brightly. Row after row of waves seemed to pound into him, pushing the jounin to the center and lower under the surface. Uzumaki, whirlpool devastation. The waves closed over, glowing with chakra as they, along with the whirlpool, battered and beat the jounin within before it seemed to explode in a fountain of water. Kakashi was on his hands and knees on the surface, coughing, you know Kushina's fighting style. He pushed himself up. I'm impressed, though you're not as good as she was. Let's call it a break. Your taijutsu is definitely on par with a Chunin, if not a little better on technical value. But you're still too young to fully utilize that style. He limped to the shore before taking a flopped seat. Naruto nodded and winced the whole way back, holding his ribs. If it wasn't for my guest, some of those hits would have been the end. He spat out some blood, chuckling, true. Though I'm impressed with those chakra whips you create. Yawning, yeah. Because of the Uzumaki bloodline and my reserves, it's funny what something like chakra strings can turn into. Nodding as he started to feel the full drain of the spar. I want to make it up to you still for the past. I know 2 jutsu that each of your parents made. I'll teach you how tomorrow. They're difficult, and took them a few years to even create, let alone use fully. What are they? He fell back on the ground, letting out a deep breath. The Rasengan is your father's, and the chakra saber is your mother's. I can't do the last one because I don't have the bloodline, but I know the theory behind it. And seeing your whips, it shouldn't take you too much to get it to work.